from the body and mind, and is thus distinct from the unconnected with the gunas of Prakriti. He only seems to be linked with the three dispositions of Maya, consisting of the states of waking, dream, and sleep. Just as an awakened man experiences the sublation of the object seen in the dream, so also at the dawn of spiritual illumination, all the waking objects are sublated. Knowing this, one should with great vigilance control and gain mastery over the waking mind, which broods over objects of the senses and enjoys them. The purpose of the whole Veda is the conquest of the senses. Yoga, Sankhya, Sannyasa, Tapas, self-control, observance of truth, and all such disciplines have this conquest of the senses and the mind as their end, as rivers have the ocean as their goal. I am now staying far away from you in order that you may practice and discipline of meditation on me, your dear one, by which you can commune with me. In the case of a woman who is in love with a person, her mind does not dwell on him so continuously when he is nearby, as it does when separated from him. Devoid of all other thoughts, allow your minds to enter into me in its completeness, then you will attain me without delay. The proof of this, O pious girls, is the fact that those of the gopis who were not able, because of obstructions, to leave Braja and join me in those nights of the rasa dance, were able to reach me instantly, giving up the physical body through intense meditation on my excellences. Reflections of the gopis on Krishna at Mathura. Sri Shuka said, hearing this message of their beloved one, the gopis were very much pleased. Their memories of olden days were revived, and they said to Uddhava, the gopis said, it is a very fortunate circumstance that Kansa, the born enemy and persecutor of the Yadavas, has been destroyed along with all his followers. It is equally fortunate that Achyuta, having achieved his main objectives, is living happily with his rejoicing relatives and clansmen. Respected Sir, receiving the adoration of the soft, bashful, and smiling looks of the city women of Mathura, Krishna, the younger brother of Rama, must be bestowing on them the love which is our due. Is it not so? Surely it cannot be otherwise. The expert connoisseur of the art of love that he is, he must already be a darling of these aristocratic women of the city, drawn by their artful speech and charming manners. Honored Sir, in the midst of his recreation amidst the assemblage of city women, does he, the erstwhile leader of Gokula, ever bestow a thought on us, mere village folk? Does he ever remember those nights he spent in woodlands of Vrindavana, enchantingly beautiful in the moonlight and amidst surroundings filled with sweet-smelled flowers like night lilies and jasmine, engaged in rasa dance with us, his dear ones, who wore anklets that produced sweet jingling sounds, and who all along sang songs of praise on his wonderful sportive actions? Will Krishna, now the Lord of the Yadus, ever come this side and revive us, drooping and drying up due to anguished thoughts about him, by placing his divine hands on us, just as Indra revives a forest by spreading his blue rain clouds? And another gopi said, Why should you expect him to come here now? All his enemies are now destroyed, and the kingdom has fallen into his hands. Marrying several princesses, he will be living happily amidst his numerous relatives. When he had no place of his own, he was here. Why should he come here now?
Still another gopi said, "It is not correct to think so. To the Great One, who is the Lord of Shri Devi, who is without any desires and is immersed in his inherent bliss, of what significance, of what use are either the forest-dwelling women like us or the princesses of royal houses? That being so, it is better that we give up our longing for Krishna. Even Pingala, though a courtesan, has said that the way to peace is to have no desire. We know this is to be the fact, but alas, we are not able to abandon the desire of our heart for Krishna. Who can abandon the memories of him, the one of undeemed fame, from whose Shri Devi never moves away, even though he has no particular attachment for her? O noble one, this river Kalindi, this mountain Govardhana, these forests, these cows, this sound of the flute, all these are associated in our minds with Krishna moving about in the company of Rama. Ah, how they remind us again and again of the son of Nanda. The tiny marks of his feet, the residence of Shri imprinted in these regions will never allow us to forget him. We whose minds have been completely taken over and held by him through his handsome gait and charming and playful looks, together with his noble smiles and sweet words, how can we possibly forget him? O Lord of Rama, O Lord of Braja, O Dispeller of sorrows, O Master of Gokula, lift up the settlement of ours that is fast sinking into the sea of sorrow. Shri Shuka said. Next, the gopis welcomed and honored Uddhava after their pain of separation was somewhat assuaged by Krishna's message, and they had some knowledge of the identity of Krishna as the Supreme Spirit shining in the hearts of all. To comfort the gopis, Uddhava stayed in Braja for some months, during which he thrilled the whole of Gokula with recitals of songs and poems on the deeds of the excellences of Krishna. The day that Uddhava stayed in Nanda's cowherd settlement were felt by its inhabitants as but a few moments, because their minds were completely engrossed in talks on Krishna. Uddhava, the servant of Hari, rejoiced himself there, seeing the rivers, lakes, forests, mountains, caves, and flowering trees at Vrindavana, all associated with Krishna's boyhood days. He rejoiced questioning about them and reviving thereby the thrilling memories of those times in the minds of the inhabitants of Braja. Seeing in this way the intensity of grief that the gopis um, experienced on account of the engrossment of their mind in Krishna, Uddhava was delighted beyond all limits, and by way of honoring them sang as follows. Pancharatna, or the five gems. These gopis are indeed the only people who have attained the real purpose of the human birth in this world, for in them is present that deep-rooted anguish of love, Mahabhava, for Govinda, the soul of all that exists. This attainment that exists. This attainment is the aspiration of us all. The liberation seekers are afraid of samsara, the sages of spiritual attainment, and we devotees, we only aspire for it, but never attain it. Of what consequence is birth in high social rank? It is only the intense feeling for the infinite being that matters. Where are these women, mere nomads of the forest, belonging to a promiscuous society? And where is this anguish of love, Mahabhava, for Krishna, the Supreme Spirit? It seems to be true that he bestows the supreme good on one who resorts to him wholly, in truth and in spirit, although he is without any understanding of him based on learning. Like a medicine taken knowingly or unknowingly, love of God does produce its result in irrespective of one's learning or social status. Neither the lotus perfumed beauties of heaven nor even Shri Devi, who is always engrossed in his love and service, ever got that degree of his grace which was the lot of these beauties of Raja, who had the great blessing of being clasped by the neck by him in the rasa dance and being conferred the highest fulfillment of their life. May I be born even as a bower or creeper or blade of grass in blessed Vrindavana, where I shall be covered with the dust of the feet of these gopis who abandoned the unbreakable bondage of love of their own near and dear ones, and of adherence to the paths of virtue approved by society, and prefer to follow the way of divine service, which remains only as an aspiration and a quest even for the Vedas and its followers. Those feet of Bhagavan Krishna, which are worshipped in their hearts by Shri Devi and by Brahma and great yogis who have no desire yet to be fulfilled, those very feet of the Bhagavan were in the rasa meat applied to their breast and embraced by these gopis who had thereby all their sufferings assuaged. I salute again and again even the dust of the feet of the women of Nanda's cowherd settlement, whose loud praise of Hari's glories is sung, is purifying, in songs is purifying all the three worlds. Uddhava's return to Mathura. Shri Shuka said, next, permitted by the gopis, Yashoda and Nanda, and bidding farewell to the Gopas, Uddhava got into his chariot on his return journey to Mathura. With various gift articles in hand, Nanda and others approached him in great affection when he was thus about to start. They said, may all the movements of our minds be centered on Krishna. May our speech be devoted to the repetition of his names. May our bodies and their actions be ever dedicated to him in whatever condition we are born according to our and by the Lord's will. May we, by virtue of all our pious deeds and charitable gifts, have always unflinching devotion to Krishna. After being thus honored by the Gopas, by their expression of devotion to Krishna, Uddhava returned to Mathura, which was now under Krishna's protection. Prostrating before Krishna, he spoke to him about the exuberant devotion of the inhabitants of Vraja to Rama, the son of Vasudeva, and to Ugrasena, the king. He made presentations of the gifts he had brought. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskandhe Purvardhe Uddhava pratiyane saptachatvarinkshodhyayah athashtachatvarinkshodhyayah Shri Shuka Uvacha. Chapter 48. Krishna visiting Trivakra and Akrura. At the house of Sairandri, Shri Shuka said, the Lord Krishna, the soul of all, the seer of everything within and without, remembering the invitation of the lovelorn Sairandri, Trivakra, the waiting maid of Kamsha, resolved to fulfill her longing and went to her house. That house was equipped with all kinds of household facilities, which with various scenes and devices to stimulate erotic sentiments, with fragrant unguents and incense, and with furniture and arrangements for resting, like cots, beds, seats, and canopies. It was further decorated with chains of pearl, flags, and wreaths of flowers and lights. On his arrival at the house, Trivakra rose up from her seat in great excitement at his very sight. Accompanied by some companions, she approached Achyuta and received him with honor, offering him a throne to sit on the other honors and other honors bespeaking a respectful welcome. She honored Uddhava too, offering him a seat, but Uddhava merely touched the seat in token of acceptance and sat on the floor, as it was not proper manners for him to sit level with Krishna. Then the Lord, without further delay, moved on to the luxurious couch as expected of him, making her person attractive by bath, application of sandal paste, dress, jewelry, flower garlands, and perfumes, and by chewing betel and drinking sweet wine. She followed Madhava into the bedchamber with an air of coyness combined with playful smiles and excited glances full of amorous sentiments. Calling by his side that beauty who was showing some hesitation due to the novelty of the contact she was having, he held her hands adorned with bracelets, seated her by his side, and carried on amorous dalliances with her in return, as it were, for the little merits she had acquired earlier by the gifts of augments to him. By applying the feet to the Supreme Being Krishna, to her breasts, her chest, and her eyes, she assuaged the distress produced by Cupid. She enjoyed his feet by smelling them, and then placing her lover, who was none but the embodiment of supreme bliss, between her breasts, she held him in tight embrace with her arms, and thus got relief from the heat of love that was distressing her for long. But having thus retained him, who is the master of man's spiritual destiny and who is the Lord of all, for the merit of having offered him fragrant augments, alas, this unfortunate woman prayed to the Lord as follows. Sairandri said, O dearest one, you must stay with me for some days and entertain me with the delights of love. O lotus-eyed one, I find it impossible to live without you. The Lord, O who honors all with appropriate boons, fulfill her desires, and then, honoring with him, presents returned with Uddhava to his highly admired abode. It is very difficult to worship and propitiate Mahavishnu, the all-pervading being, but having somehow adored and pleased him, if one prays to him for the boons of sexual satisfaction, that person must indeed be one of extremely low intelligence to ask for such a silly, trifling, and illusory reward as boon. at Akrura's house. Soon after, Lord Krishna, along with Rama and Uddhava, one day visited the house of Akrura, partly to please him by fulfilling the promise of a visit and partly for the achievement of a purpose through him. Seeing from a distance the approach of his relatives, Akrura very eagerly went to them and welcomed them with embraces.
He prostrated himself before Rama and Krishna, and they in turn greeted him. He then honored them with the offer of seeds and worship. O king, he sprinkled on his head and on the other parts of the body the water with which their feet were washed. Then he worshipped them with some sandal paste, flowers, and other decorations, as well as with the presentation of rare and valuable cloths. Next, after prostrating himself before them, he sat down, took their feet in his lap, and began to stroke them. With proper salutation and humility, he said to them as follows: Hymn of Akrura. Fortunately, the sinful Kansa and his followers have been killed by thee. By this, thy clan of the Rishnis has been salvaged from endless misery. They are now prospering too. Thou and Rama constitute Purusha and Prakriti, the cause of the world as well as the world in its manifestation. Apart from thee, there is nothing as cause and nothing as effect too. This world is a self-projection of thyself through thy Shakti without the help of any other second factor. Thou dost interpenetrate the world so projected and present thyself as the multiplicity perceived by the senses like sight and hearing. Just as elements like earth subsist in their unaffected and pristine condition and yet manifest themselves as this multiplicity of beings having their sources in them, even so thou, the Supreme Lord, shinest with thy nature as spirit, pure, free, and unsullied, in this universe of multiplicity having its source in thee. With the gunas of Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas, which are aspects of thy Shakti, power of potency, thou dost create, preserve, and destroy. But all these transformations do not affect thee, as they are of thy power and not thyself. What can bind? Thee who art pure consciousness. As the reality status of adjuncts, like the body, cannot be established. Even the jiva in its real nature has neither birth nor difference. That being the case, for thee, the divine incarnate, there can be no question of birth or freedom, for thou art ever the pure spirit, and all conceptions to the contrary are due to our learned ignorance. Whenever the ancient path of enlightenment revealed by thee is in danger at the hands of evil-minded atheists, then thou dost manifest in a body of sattva as a divine incarnation. O Lord, thy present divine descent has taken place along with thy counterpart Balarama in this family of Vasudeva in order to relieve the earth of its burden by destroying the vast armies of Asuras born as kings and to augment the fame of the clan of Yadavas. Today, my house has been rendered more holy than hermitages of ascetics. For today, it has the good fortune to have as its guest the supreme parent and teacher of all worlds, who is the embodiment of all divinities, Pitras, rulers, other created beings, and the Vedas, and whose foot washings from the sacred Ganga sanctifying the whole world. What wise man will seek shelter in anyone other than thee, the lover of his devotees, the truth-natured, the universal well-wisher, the ever-grateful? For he, the Lord, is so loving to the devotees that to those who adore him, he not only grants all their desires, but even his very self, attaining which there is no further rise or fall. O Janardana, it is indeed the height of our good fortune that thou, who art not attainable even by great yogis and divinities, hast condescended to come of thy own accord to our house. Deign to cut asunder in me the cord of attachment, thy Maya's creation, for son, wife, wealth, elders, house, and body. Akrura commissioned to go to Hastinapura. Sri Shuka said, when Akrura had thus worshipped and praised him, Krishna, who was none but Lord Hari, spoke smilingly to Akrura in words calculated to win him over completely. The Lord said, you are always our respected elder, our uncle, our venerable relative, and we are your wards, children, to be protected and loved. Such revered and worshipful personages like you should alone be approached and served by those who care for their own real good. For even the devas are selfish, but not such noble and holy personages. It is not that holy water, tirthas, are not purifying. It is not also the divine images made of stone or mud are not sacred. The purification they effect is, however, attainable only in the course of a very long time, but holy men effect it at sight. Friends and well-wishers, you occupy the very first place. We want all information about the condition of the sons of Pandu in order that we may promote their cause. So please be so good as to go to Hastinapura, the capital of Pandavas. We have heard that when King Pandu died, his sorrow-stricken children along with their mother were brought to his capital by King Dhritarashtra, and that they have been staying there since then. It is sure that a person like King Dhritarashtra, the son of Ambika, who is of a weak mind, blind, and dominated by evil sons, will not treat his brother's sons on a par with his own sons. Please go to Hastinapura and ascertain whether his treatment of his nephew is proper or not. After knowing that, we shall do what is good to our kinsmen, the sons of Pandu. After giving these directions to Akrura, the Lord Hari, the possessor of all divine powers and majesties, the ruler of all, returned to his abode with Balarama and Uddhava. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramhansayam Sangitayam Dashma Khande Purvade Ashtat Vat Ri Shodhyaya Ate Konapchatvari Varit Mo Dhyaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Skanda 10, Chapter 49. Akrura's mission to Hastinapura. Akrura gathered information from Vidura, Kunti, and others. Sri Shuka said, Akrura accordingly went to Hastinapura which declared the glory of the kings of Puru's line, and there met some of his elders like Bhishma, Dhritarashtra, Vidura, Kunti Devi, and others. He met also Dhavika, his son Somadatta, Drona, Ashwatthama, Kripa, Karna, Duryodhana, sons of Pandu, and other friends. Akrura mixed freely with all the friends there. He entered into conversations with them, and after they had made inquiries about his own welfare, he asked them about the conditions of the various friends at that place. Akrura stayed there for a few months in order to have a detailed idea of the doings of King Dhritarashtra, who was dull-witted, influenced by a set of evil-minded sons, and prone to follow the advice of villainous persons like Karna. He learned from Pritha and Vidura how Dhritarashtra's son, being extremely jealous of the sons of Pandu and Pritha for their impressive personality, energy, strength, courage, humility, and other admirable qualities, as well as for their popularity among the subjects, persecuted them in the most heinous ways, like poisoning, and how they had various similar plans for the future. Pritha, the mother of the Pandavas, approached Akrura, who was a brother of hers, with a nostalgia for her birthplace, an old associate, and said with tears in her eyes, "O dear one, do my parents, brothers, sisters, nephews, royal ladies, and my friends, do they remember us?" Krishna, the possessor of divine excellences, the fit refuge for all, the lover of devotees, the lotus-eyed, the son of my brother, does he also, Rama, remember the children of their father's sister? Would he come here by his speech console us, me, who am grief-stricken in the midst of these inimical people, like a doe amidst wolves, and my sons who have been put to extreme difficulties by the death of their father? O Krishna, O Krishna, thou the seat of all powers, thou the soul of the world, thou the supreme creator, thou the quest of all the scriptures, protect me together with my children. Am in extreme distress. I do not find any other support than the salvation-giving lotus feet of thine, the Supreme Lord, that can sustain people who are faced with the threat of death, which is samsara. Salutation to thee, Krishna, the boundless, the redeemer of jivas, the master of all yogic powers, and one who is of the nature of pure consciousness. I have taken shelter in thee. Sri Suka said, O king, your great-grandmother Kunti Devi thus wept and wailed in great grief, remembering her kinsfolk and Sri Krishna, the Lord of the universe. Akrura and the noted devotee Vidura, both of whom were no less overwhelmed by sorrow than Kunti Devi herself, consoled her by reminding her of the divine origin of her children. Akrura's advice to Dhritarashtra. When he was about to return, Akrura approached King Dhritarashtra, who, because of his extreme affection for his own children, was showing discrimination against his brother's sons, and spoke to him, amidst other relatives, regarding the mission on which Rama and Krishna had sent him. Akrura said, O son of Vichitrabirya, you who have enhanced the fame of the Kuru clan, after your brother Pandu's death, the royal throne is occupied by you. If you govern the land according to Dharma, if you please your subjects by your excellent character and love, and treat your sons and the sons of Pandu alike, then you will attain fame and what is good. If you do not follow this rule, you will only have ill fame in this world and hell in the next. Therefore, look alike on your sons and the sons of Pandu. It is impossible for anyone in this world to be in the company of another for all time. One has to part even from one's own dear body. No need then to speak about the temporality of one's relation with wife and children.
A creature is born alone and dies alone. One enjoys one's merit by oneself, and one suffers for one's demerits also by oneself. The wealth that men of little understanding make in all sorts of improper ways is consumed or taken away by others, his own relatives like wife and children, under the guise of being claimants to his protection, just as among the fish their own swarming uh, offspring use up the water and the support of their life, while one protects and nourishes one's body, wealth, and children in all kinds of unrighteous ways under the notion that they are one's own. Such objects of solicitude of that greedy and senseless man abandon him by death or desertion, abandoned by those for whose sake he followed dubious ways. The unrighteous man, without any clear notion of life's purpose and without attaining to anything permanent in it, passes away with sin as his wages and hell as his goal. Therefore, O King, realizing this life in the world to be on a par with a dream, a magical show, or a reverie, control your mind by discrimination and cultivate the habit of being unruffled and impartial in all situations. Dhritarashtra's reply. Dhritarashtra said, O Akrura, noted for your generosity, the sound words of advice given by you never satiate me, but just as a man who has got life-giving nectar never feels enough and no more is enjoying it. But, O noble one, in my fickle mind that is always unbalanced by affection for my children, they do not make any permanent impression, like a streak of lightning on a mountain side. Who can alter the will of the Supreme Lord, who is now incarnated in the Yadava clan for the eradication of the pressures of evil forces in the world? He who by his incomprehensible and mysterious power, Maya, brought this world into existence, entered into it, and regulates its functioning through the law of karma. I salute him whose inscrutable play constitutes this transmigratory cycle, having him as its final end. Shri Shuka said, Akrura, after thus knowing the views of Dhritarashtra and permitted by his relatives, returned to the city of Yadava. He informed Rama and Krishna of the attitude and dealings of Dhritarashtra in relation to the sons of Pandu, for which he was commissioned to go to Mathura. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Vaiyasikyamashtadasha Sahasrayam Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskandhe Purvardhe Ekona Panchashattatamodhyayah Atha Panchashattatamodhyayah. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Chapter 50. Confrontation with Jarasandha. Attack of Jarasandha. Shri Shuka said, O noble son of Bharata's line, Kamsa had two wives named Asti and Prati. On their husband's death, they returned to their father's house in sorrow. These sorrow-stricken ladies informed their father Jarasandha what had led to their widowhood. Extremely sorrow and angry at these tragic developments, he made every effort to wipe off the Yadava race from the face of the earth. Jarasandha gathered an army of 23 Akshauhinis and besieged Mathura, the capital of the Yadava, on all sides. Krishna, who was none but Hari, the Lord of infinite powers, in the guise of a man for the achievement of certain purpose, saw this huge army surrounding his capital and the people in the city fear-stricken. He cogitated as follows about the ways and means of achieving the purpose of his advent at the proper time and place. I shall now destroy this huge army mobilized by Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, a heavy burden on earth consisting as it does of several Akshauhinis of men, horses, chariots, and elephants of his own, and the fighting forces of all his allied kings. But I shall not destroy Jarasandha himself now, but let him mobilize more forces to be destroyed afterwards. Among the purpose of this descent of mine, one is giving relief to the earth from the burden of evil men, which involves the destruction of the wicked, so that the good may get proper protection. I have assumed other embodiments as well whenever necessity arose, for the destruction of evil and the protection of dharma. As the Lord reflected this, there came from heaven 2 chariots of solar brilliance, driven by a charioteer and provided with all military equipment. Seeing the chariots full of weapons, time-tested and divine, Krishna, the conqueror of the senses, said to Balarama, O worshipful one, you are the protector of the Yadavas. See the danger threatening them. Here has come a chariot with all the weapons that you are accustomed to use. Sitting in this chariot, may you be pleased to destroy these enemy armies and thereby protect our people from danger. Have you not come into the world for this purpose, the protection of the good and the destruction of the wicked? May you be pleased to relieve this earth of the burden of these 23 Akshauhinis of evil men. Saying so, Rama and Krishna put on protective armor, got into the chariots with their own excellent weapons, and accompanied by a small army came out of the city. Then Krishna, who was none but Hari, sitting in his chariot, driven by Daruka, blew his conch. Jarasandha challenges and joins battle. At this, the men in the army camp trembled in fear. Seeing Rama and Krishna together, Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, said, addressing Krishna, You scoundrel among men, you killer of all my relations, you Krishna, out of the shame I do not want to fight with you, who are only a boy in years and who is alone. Fool, I cannot fight with a coward who has been brought up in secrecy. Get away. O Rama, if you desire to fight and are brave enough to do so, come forward for a contest. Be ready to have your body severed into pieces by my arrows and your soul dispatched to heaven. Or you kill me in battle. The worshipful Lord said, Brave men do not boast. By action they demonstrate their manliness. I take your words only as a pitiable outpourings of a dying man. Shri Shuka said, The powerful Jarasandha with his huge army of infantry, cavalry, and chariots opposed Rama and Krishna and their forces in battle array and surrounded them both as a storm covers the sun with clouds and the fire with dust. Great was the grief of the women of the city who were watching from the top of building the towers when they could no longer see the flags of Rama and Krishna bearing the insignia of palm, tree and kite. Krishna, the Lord Hari, saw his army harassed very much by the torrential rain of arrows from the enemy line. He thereupon took up and twanged his bow Sangna, adored of all devas and asuras. Taking sharp arrows from his quiver, Krishna began his attack on the opposing army, consisting of regiments of chariots, elephants, cavalry, and infantry. As a firebrand briskly whirled makes an unbroken circle, Krishna was seen striking the uh, enemy army everywhere simultaneously. In large number, the enemy forces fell before Krishna's arrows. The elephants, with their heads shattered, the horses, with their necks cut, the chariots, with their warriors, charioteers, the horses slain, and the foot soldiers, with their limbs and necks severed. Many a rivulet of blood originating from the severed limbs of men, elephants, and horses began to flow. These rivulets had the severed hands of men for snakes, the heads of men for tortoises, the slaughtered elephants for eaglets, and the bodies of the horses for crocodiles, the severed palms for fish, the hair of men for water hyacinth, the bows for the billows, the other weapons for water weeds, special weapons like the discus for the turbulent whirlpools, and the precious stones set in the scattered ornaments for pebbles. It was fear-inspiring for crowds and exciting for brave men. That army of haughty and persevered leaders was destroyed by Balarama of incomparable prowess with his plough weapon. The huge army led by Jarasandha, which was like an ocean, awesome, shoreless, unfathomed, and difficult to negotiate, was completely destroyed as in play by the sons of Vasudeva, who were none but the Supreme Being incarnate. In respect of the Lord, for whom creation, preservation, and dissolution of the whole universe form only a sport, the destruction of an enemy's army is not in the least surprising. Still, as it looks wonderful to men when performed in his assumed human form, poets make much of it by describing them. Capture and release of Jarasandha. As a lion catches hold of another lion, powerful Balarama, by virtue of his prowess, caught hold of the equally powerful Jarasandha, who had by this time been deprived of his army and left with his own life as his sole support. Balarama had bound him by ropes and was about to kill him when Krishna stopped it, as there were many things to be achieved through him. Thus, released by those divine personages, the masters of the universe, Jarasandha, who was reckoned a hero, felt so humiliated that he resolved to become an ascetic and started for the forests when he was stopped on the way by a batch of ruling kings. By words of lofty significance, but based on purely worldly considerations, they persuaded him to abandon that cause, making him convinced that it was only the momentum of his karma and not any inherent worthlessness in him. that had led to his defeat. Thus, with his life spared by the divine pay, but his army annihilated, Jarasandha returned to his capital in a very sullen mood. With his own army intact and that of the enemy vanquished, Krishna was now greeted with showers of flowers by the celestials. Free from fear and rejoicing, the inhabitants of Mathura now went to honor him, accompanied by heralds, bards, and panegyrists who recited verses and songs exalting his victory. The Lord's entry into the city was greeted by the sounding of many instruments, conches, kettle drums, big drums, and trumpets, as well as musical instruments like the veena, flute, and mridanga.
The roads in the city were all swept clean and sprinkled with water. Flags, arches, festoons, and other kinds of decorations were seen everywhere. The streets were full of holiday crowds, and the sound of Vedic chants filled the air. As he entered the city, women sprinkled on him flowers, curds, unbroken rice, and sprouts, while everyone looked on with eyes wide open on account of love and joy. Whatever booty was captured in war, and whatever jewelry and decorations of the dead warriors were collected, were all placed as presents before Ugrasena, the king of the Yadus. In this fashion, Jarasandha led 17 expeditions each time with 23 Akshohinis of troops against the Yadus under the protection of Krishna. Every time the Vrishnis destroyed his forces without any remnants, thanks to Krishna's prowess. Jarasandha, however, was spared every time and allowed to go away. Kalyavana's attack. Just before Jarasandha was about to start on his 18th expedition against Mathura, Sage Narada prompted Kalyavana also to join the attack. He was still now under the impression that in this world of men there was none equal to him. But now he came to know that in the Yadavas he had a set of worthy opponents. So he marched to their capital of Mathura with his 3.5 crores of foreign troops and laid siege to the city. Seeing the Yavana and his mighty army, Sri Krishna and Balarama were much concerned about the predicament of the Vrishnis, threatened simultaneously with attack by two sets of foes. They thought thus: this Yavana with a very big army is facing us today. Tomorrow or day after, the king of Magadha also will come attacking. If Jarasandha were to appear when we are fighting with this Yavana, Jarasandha, the powerful warrior that he is sure to kill all our people or take them captive. The way out is this: we should build a fortress that is impregnable and shelter our people there, and we must have the Yavana destroyed by someone else. Founding of Dwaraka. Resolving thus, the Lord made a wonderfully attractive city in the middle of 12 yojanas of fortified area in the sea. In the city there were properly planned highways crossed by subsidiary roads, from which proceeded streets on both sides of which stood houses built according to the rules of town planning and displaying fully the skill of the heavenly architect Vishwakarma. There were flower gardens with celestial plants and creepers and parks with various kinds of trees. There were houses and buildings with sky-kissing domes and roofs of gold and crystal. There were halls made of silver and brass, capped with golden domes, and houses of gold with tops studded with diamond and surrounded by courtyards paved with emeralds. There were temples here and there, and wooden balconies on tops of houses for moon baths. There were quarters for all the four Varnas to stay, as well as special houses for the elite of the Yadava clan. Indra provided this abode of Krishna with the celestial tree Parijata and the assembly hall called Sudharma, which had the power of keeping its occupants free from hunger and thirst. Varuna sent as presents very fast horses, all white, but for one of the ears which was dark in color. Kubera presented 8 treasures of Lokapalas, and all the guardian deities of the world placed their resources at the Lord's disposal. Whatever power and position the Lord had given to them, these celestials surrendered to him when he manifested himself as a man in the world. Krishna, who was none but Hari, now transferred all the people from Mathura to his new capital Dwaraka. Then, after consulting Rama, who was in charge of the administration, Krishna, without any weapon and wearing only a garland of lotus flowers, went away from Dwaraka to meet Kalayavana.
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsayam Sanghitayam Dashamaskande Uttarardi Durga Veshanam Nama Pancha Shattamodhyaya Atha Athaika Pancha Shattamodhyaya Shri Sukha Uvacha.
Skanda 10, chapter 51, bestowal of grace on Muchukunda. Krishna's flight before Kalyavana and the latter's death. Sri Sukha said, Kalyavana saw Krishna coming out of the city, handsome like the rising moon, blue in complexion, wearing a yellow silk, having the Srivasta mark on the chest, wearing the shining Kaustubha jewel on the neck, possessing 4 powerful and well-formed arms, having eyes with a reddish tinge like fresh lotus petals, and endowed with a face that was ever cheerful, smiling, and handsome with shining cheeks and brilliant fish-marked earrings. He has the Srivasta mark, he has 4 arms, he has lotus-like eyes, he wears floral wreaths, and he is extremely handsome. All this tallied with what the sage Narada had given as the distinguishing marks of Vasudeva. So this can be none but he. He is without any weapon, and he is walking on foot. So I too shall fight him weaponless. Kalayavana reflected like this in his mind, seeing that Krishna, whom even yogis cannot capture in their minds, was apparently running away, averting his face. The Yavana pursued him. At every step, allowing the Yavana to feel that he was about to catch him, Krishna, the Lord of all, kept running and finally led the Yavana to the distant mountain cave. This kind of flight, when challenged, is not fit for you born in the line of Yadu, berating in this way that Yavana, whose sins were not yet exhausted, pursued Krishna, but was unable to catch him. Though insulted like this, the Lord now hid himself in the mountain cave. The Yavana also entered it and saw there a person lying asleep. He could not, however, see the Lord. Ah, this fellow, after drawing me away this long distance, is now lying here, pretending to be asleep. So thought the foolish Yavana, and gave a kick to the sleeper. That long-sleeping individual thereupon woke up, opened his eyes, and saw the Yavana standing close by, O sign of Bharata's line. The moment his angry glance fell on the Yavana, a flame of fire emanated from his body and burned the Yavana to ashes. The story of Muchukunda. The Raja said, O holy sir, who was that man who destroyed the Yavana? To what line did he belong? Whose son was he? Who was the source of his power? Why did he enter the cave and sleep there? Sukha said, That person was born in the kingly line of the Ikshvakus. He was the son of Mandata and was famed as Muchukunda, devoted as to holy men and truth. The Devas headed by Indra, being terror-stricken by the doings of Asura, requested Muchukunda to give them protection. He did protect them as requested for a long time. When the Devas got Guha Subramanya as their commander-in-chief, they permitted Muchukunda to withdraw from this wondrous task of protecting them, this onerous task of protecting them. They said, "You abandoned worldly enjoyments and your own secure kingdom free from enemies in order to engage yourself in our protection. Your sons, queens, relatives, ministers, subjects, in fact, none of your contemporaries are now alive. Time has swallowed them up. Time is the most powerful among the powerful. As aspects of Mahavishnu, sovereign eternal, time plays by shifting all creatures from place to place as a cowkeeper does with his cattle. Make good befall you. You choose from us whatever boon you want, except Moksha, which is exclusively under the control of Mahavishnu, who alone can grant it." Being told so, the famous king chose sleep as the boon, and entering the cave, fell asleep under the spell of the celestial boon. If any foolish man wakes you up from your sleep in the middle, he will be reduced to ashes on your gaze falling on him. So ran the boon given by Devas. Muchukunda's vision of Krishna. On the Yavana being reduced to ashes, the worshipful Krishna, the master of all devotees, revealed himself to Muchukunda. Muchukunda saw before him the divine form of Mahavishnu, blue in complexion like a rain cloud, wearing a silk of yellow color, having the Srivasta mark on the chest, shining with the bright jewel Kostova on his neck, possessing 4 arms, adorned with a garland called Vaijayanti, having a face handsome, joyous, and shining with fish-marked pendants, presenting a wondrous form for men to see, possessing a look and a smile radiating love, endowed with the fresh beauty of blooming youth, and having a gait as majestic as that of a lion. Overpowered by the splendor of that divine form, the intelligent king, with considerable hesitation arising from that awe-inspiring majesty, said slowly as follows. Muchukunda said, "Who is it that I am seeing before me? In these mountain caves full of thorns, how dost thou walk with unslippered feet, as tender as lotus flowers? Art thou the embodiment of the splendor in all beings, or any of the divinities, the sun, Soma, Indra, or any of the protectors of the world? I consider thee to be Mahavishnu, the Lord of the Trimurti, who is above all divinities. The brilliance of thy form is dispelling all darkness from this cave like a glowing light. O Great One, if you have no objection, please tell me, who am I very anxious to know? All particulars about yourself, about the family of your birth, your ancestry, your achievements, and the like. As for myself, O heroic one, I am a Kshatriya belonging to the line of Ikshvakus, named Muchukunda, the son of Mandata, and the grandson of Yuvanasava. Extremely tired through long vigils, I was having sound sleep in this solitary cave, with all my senses completely dissolved in oblivion. Now someone has come and woken me up. He has got burnt into ashes as the wages of his sin. After that, thou, with a heroic and majestic personality, has appeared before me, O Great One. By thy splendor, the power of my senses has been overwhelmed. I am not able even to look at thee for long. O Great One, thou dost deserve the respect of the world, the whole world." Krishna offers boon to Muchukunda. To him who said so, Lord Krishna, the protector of all, began to reply smilingly in a voice deep and sonorous like thunder. The Bhagavan said, Honored one, my births, deeds, and names are so numerous and even I cannot recount them all. It may be possible to count the particles of dust on this planet in the course of many births, but not the number of my births, attributes, and names. O King, great rishis who try to compute the number of my births in the past, present, and future have not succeeded even to this day in completing their calculation. Still, O noble one, know from me about my present advent. Brahma represented to me that for the proper maintenance of Dharma on the earth has to be rid of the weight of the vast number of asuras born in it as men.
Accordingly, I am incarnated in the line of the Yadus as the son of Vasudeva and am known as Vasudeva. Kalanemi, born of Kamsa, Pralamba, and several other wicked ones, have been slain, O king. This Yavana too has been burned by your fiery eyes, because you had in the past adored me with sincere prayers. I, who am attached to my devotees, have, for your blessing, presented myself in this cave. O royal sage, choose whatever boon you want, and I shall grant them all accordingly. No devotee of mine shall suffer. Hymn of Muchukunda. Sri Sukha said, Muchukunda was delighted to hear these words. From what the sage Garga had told him, he knew that the visitor to the cave was none but the Lord Narayana. Making prostrations to Krishna, Muchukunda began to speak in great joy. Muchukunda said, O Lord, men and women in this world, being infatuated by thy Maya, fail to understand the true nature of things. They fail to worship thee. They deceive themselves by seeking happiness in the household life, which is the source of all sufferings, even getting with ease, by thy grace of God, a birth as man, with perfect health, and an attainment difficult to obtain ordinarily. People of impure minds do not worship thee. We but fall like animals into camouflaged well of household life. O unconquerable one, my life till now has been wasted, caught up as I was in castles in the air, centering on the feeling that the body is the self, in the kingly pride of infatuation for territory and treasures, and in anxious thoughts about wife, children, and wealth, having the deep-seated conviction and pride that I am a king on account of identification with this body, which is comparable to a pot or a well. I moved about everywhere, surrounded by chariots, horsemen, elephants, foot soldiers, and commanders, completely ignoring thee in the exuberance of blinding pride, completely oblivious of spiritual values due to absorption in worldly interests, prompted by greed and absorbed in sensuous enjoyment. Man becomes an easy victim to thee as death, the vigilant, just like a rat to a hungry snake protruding its tongue. Thy powerful time, whom none can resist or overcome, reduces to mere filth, worm, and ashes the erstwhile kingly body that moves about on elephants in rut, decorated with golden ornaments. A mighty conqueror subdues all the surrounding countries. Having none more to fight with, he withdraws from the warfare and sits on his throne, receiving homage and vassal kings. But what awaits him after that, O Lord, is only slavery to womenfolk in his domestic life, becoming their play animal in his quest for carnal satisfactions, or abandoning worldly enjoyments. He may perform rituals observing austerity with the desire, I shall become Indra, or an emperor in the future birth, to make many charitable gifts for that purpose. But alas, a man with such swelling greed is not able to have happiness even in this world due to his ritualistic preoccupations. Jivas who are involved in the transmigratory cycle will get associated with holy men when their involvement in that cycle is coming to a close. For when they obtain such association, they begin to draw to thee, who art the goal of all holy men, and who art the director of the universe of cause and effect. It is indeed a great blessing of thine that I was able to detach myself from my bondage to kingly duties so early in life and with such ease. For even great emperors of reflective nature who want to take to ascetic life pray for it intensely for long before they get it. Fading one, I do not look for any other boon than that which thy devotees, without any possession but thee, seek, the service of thy feet, who, after adoring thee, the bestower of liberation, would ask for boons which are only causes of bondage. O Lord, therefore, abandoning all desires which are based on the gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas, I seek shelter in thee, the sinless, the transcendent, beyond the gunas, the one without a second, the condensing essence of consciousness. O Supreme, O Spirit Supreme, O Granter of refuge, reduced to wretchedness by sin, distressed by threefold sufferings, and attacked by the six enemies in the shape of six passions, I, a devotee, without even an iota of peace, have sought refuge in thee, the true and the blissful. Protect me, O Lord, from the dangers surrounding me. Krishna blesses Muchukunda. Sri Bhagavan said, O great King and Lord of all earth, your mind has attained to purity and firmness, for though tempted by many boons, you were not attracted by such worldly satisfaction. Know that I did not tempt you with many boons, with an idea of testing your vigilance over the senses. It was more show how a devotee with unwavering devotion to me can never be attracted and perverted by worldly fulfillments. In the case of those who practice concentrations through pranayama, and such other yogic disciplines, but have no devotion to the Lord, the subtle sensuous tendencies in the mind are not destroyed, and their mind is again found to turn to objects of the senses. Go about anywhere in the world with your mind absorbed in me. I bless you to have unshakable and unwavering devotion to me all and in all conditions. While you were discharging your duties as a kshatriya, you happened to kill many creatures in hunts and other recreations that have no connection with your swadharma. Destroy the sins accruing to you from such undertakings, and practice austerities with the senses under control and in entire submission to me. In another birth, you as a holy man with universal love and attain to my transcendental state, which surpasses Prakriti and all its effects. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Sanghitayam Dashamaskande Uttararde Muchukundas Tu Nirma Maika Panksha Shato Modhyaya Atha Vipanksha Shattamodhyaya Shri Shuka Uvacha. The rest of Jarasanda's story and Rukmani's message, Muchukunda's departure, Sri Sukha said, O king, Muchukunda, the son of Ikshwaku, being thus blessed by Krishna, made full prostrations to the Lord, and then left the cave. Seeing men, animals, trees, plants, and all dwarfed in sizes, he concluded that the age of Kali was at hand. He proceeded in the northerly direction, austere, full of faith, having senses under control and the mind concentrated on Krishna. He went to Gandhamadana mountain. There he stayed at Bhadarayana Ashrama, the center of Nara Narayana, and adored Hari through austerity, remaining calm and unperturbed in all situations, and facing alike the pairs of opposites like heat and cold. Pursuit of Jarasandha. The Lord then went back to his city of Mathura, besieged by the Yavanas, and after destroying the Yavana army, went away to his new capital of Dwarka, with all the booty gathered from the foe. While the booty was being dispatched on the back of oxen, there appeared Jarasandha once again for the attack with 23 Akshahunis of troops. Seeing the enemy army approaching, Rama and Krishna, who had adopted the behavior of men, took to their heels, abandoning much of the booty there itself. They were seen to run all the distance to the capital of their tender feet, like most cowardly among the cowards. The powerful Jarasandha, who did not understand the extraordinary divine prowess of his opponents, laughed on seeing them running away and pursued them with his chariot. Extremely tired after running a long distance, Rama and Krishna climbed a huge mountain called Pravarshana, called so because Indra sent there showers of rain constantly. Jarasandha thought the two were hiding somewhere in the mountain, but he could not find any trace of their footprints. So, keeping firewood around the mountain, he set fire to the place. When the lower level of the mountain were aflame, Rama and Krishna jumped down from the top of the mountain 11 yojanas in height. The pursuing our enemies, having thus lost track of them, Rama and Krishna went to the new city of Dwarka with the ocean as the moat surrounding it, under the false idea that those boys, Rama and Krishna, must have been burnt in the forest fire. Jarasandha withdrew to his capital Magadha with his huge army. Rukmani sending a message to Krishna. It has been said already in the ninth skanda that at the instance of Brahma, Rayavata, the king of the land of Anarthas, offered his daughter Revati to Balarama in marriage, whose coin of the Kuru family. Govinda, the Lord of all divine majesties, wedded Rukmani, an embodiment of Sri Devi, born as the daughter of the king of Vidarbha, named Bhishmaka, in a marriage ceremony by choice. In the presence of a large number of people, he took her away by force, as Garuda did the pot of Amrita, defeating Salvas and other partisans of Shishupala, the king of Chedi, in a lightning military action. The Raja said, I have heard that the Lord married Rukmani, the handsome daughter of Bhishmaka, following the Rakshasa form of marriage. O worshipful one, I desire to hear how Krishna, of unlimited prowess, overcame the kings like those of Magadha and Salva and carried away the girl. O thou knower of Brahman, where is the connoisseur who will feel satisfied with and get tired of hearing accounts of Krishna which are sanctifying, delightful, destructive of man's ignorance, and possessed of the quality of ever-renewing novelty. Sri Sukha said, there was a great ruler of Vidarbha known as Bhishmaka. He had 5 sons and a daughter of exceeding beauty. The eldest son was Rukmini, and the others in order of age were Rukmaratha, Rukmabhanu, Rukma, Rukmakesa, and Rukmamali. Younger to them all was the virtuous Rukmini, their sister. Hearing from the visitors to the palace of the extraordinary beauty, strength, and virtues of Krishna, she thought within herself that he would be a suitable husband for her.
Krishna too resolved in mind to marry her, considering her a fitting bride for himself, as she was the repository of great qualities like intelligence, auspicious features, generosity, beauty, and agreeability in nature and habits. O king, while all her relatives wanted to give her in marriage to Krishna, her brother Rukmi, who had an antagonism towards Krishna, resolved to marry her to his friend Sisupala, the king of the Chedis. The handsome girl Rukmini was extremely sorrow-stricken to know this. After thinking deeply over the situation, she sent a trusted Brahmana as a messenger to Krishna. Reaching Dwaraka, he was allowed by the guardians of the gates to go inside, where he was seated on a golden throne. Krishna was none but the Supreme Spirit, the origin of all. Krishna's reception of the messenger. On seeing him, Krishna, who had the highest respect for Brahmanas, got up from his seat and, installing the visitor on it, worshipped him as Devas worshipped himself. After lunch, the Brahmana was resting when Krishna sat by his side, stroking his feet, and spoke to him in a gentle voice. O Holy One, don't you feel happy and contented in mind with whatever you are able to earn without difficulty? Are you not able to perform all your Vedic rites and other scriptural duties to the satisfaction of your elders? If a Brahmana lives contented with whatever comes to him, attracted by his holiness, and without any effort on his part, and sticks unswervingly to his swadharma, that conduct of his will bring welfare to the whole world. Even if a person be Indra, the lord of the celestials, he will be restless and he will go from world to world if he be without contentment. But even without any possessions, one remains joyous and peaceful if there is content. I salute again and again such holy men as are satisfied with what they get, as are devoted to their swadharma, friendly to all beings, free from egotism, and endowed with minds that peacefully rest in me. I hope the ruler of your country is helpful to you in all ways. Dear to me is a king whose subjects are well governed and live happily. From which part of the country and for what purpose are you come, taking all this trouble to cross the sea? If it is not a secret, I shall be glad to hear of it. Is there anything that I could do for you? Being thus questioned by the Lord, appearing in a human form, taking this for sport, the Brahmana spoke freely as follows about his mission. Rukmini's message. Thus says Rukmini, hearing about thy virtues which, entering into the hearer's heart through the ear, generates bliss in the person's whole being, and hearing also about the beauty of thy form, which fulfills the highest expectations of one's sense of sight, my mind, O Achyuta, has entered into thee, overcoming all feelings of bashfulness. O granter of moksha, O noblest among men, which noble-born girl of marriageable age, virtuous and self-control, will not for a husband choose thee who art well matched to her in point of nobility of birth, character, form, education, youth, wealth, and glory. I have therefore chosen thee as my husband, and have offered myself to thee. All-pervading one, deign to accept me as thy wife. O lotus-eyed one, do not allow the king of Chedi to take me away. who am a property of thine. It would otherwise be like a jackal attempting to carry away the fare of the lion. If I have acquired any merit by the worship of the Supreme Being through the practice of sacrifices, charities, religious rites, and adoration of divinities, holy men, elders, and teachers, may my hand be held in wedlock by none but Krishna, never by anyone else, including Sisupala. On the occasion of the marriage ceremony arranged for tomorrow, deign to present thyself incognito at Vidarbha, and surrounded by thy generals, and defeating the armies of kings of Chedai and Magadha, capture and marry me by force according to the Rakshasa's right, the bridal money paid on the occasion being thy might. How can I, who dwell in the women's quarters within the palace, be carried away without killing the relatives? If this be thy difficulty, here is a hint. The day before the marriage, there will be a grand procession for worship at the temple of the family mother deity, Parvati. The new bride, who will be in the procession of the temple, which is situated outside the palace, he, the dust of whose lotus feet is sought by great ones, including Parameshwara, the Lord of Uma, for the eradication of the blinding darkness of ignorance in their hearts. If he fails to be gracious to me, I shall, O lotus-eyed one, forsooth abandon my life by fast and other austerities. This shall happen in life after life until I get thee as husband. O Lord of the Yadavas, I have brought to you this private message. Whatever is to be done in this matter has to be carefully thought about and done at once.
Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsayam Sanghitayam Dashamaskandi Uttararde Rukminyu Dvaha Prasattave Dvipancha Sattamudhyaya Atha Pancha Sattamudhyaya Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Chapter 10, Chapter 53, the abduction of Rukmini. Krishna's response to Rukmini. Sri Sukha said, hearing that message of the princess of Vidarbha, Krishna said smilingly to that Brahmana, holding his hand in his. Sri Bhagavan said, I too am always thinking of her, just as she does of me, so I do not get sleep at night. I know that because of the opposition of Rukmi, my marriage with her has defeating those degenerate kings in battle, I shall take away that handsome girl, so absorbingly in love with me, just as fire is extracted out of the fire stick in a sacrifice. Sri Sukha said, ascertaining the date fixed for Rukmini's marriage, Krishna ordered his charioteer Daruka to get his chariot ready immediately. Soon Daruka brought the chariot to which were harnessed the 4 horses, Saibya, Sugriva, Megapushpa, and Vala, stood before Krishna saluting him. Together with the Brahmana messenger, Krishna ascended the chariot and, thanks to the fleet-footed horses, covered the distance from the Anarta country to the Vidarbha in one night. Marriage preparations of Kundina. Slave to his affection for his son Rukmi, Bhishmaka, the ruler of Kundina, had made all arrangements for giving his daughter in marriage to Sisupala. The city with all its high roads, streets, and squares was swept and well watered. It was decorated with multicolored flags sporting designs and with ornamental arches decked with garlands and other adornments. Along the streets were well-built houses from which was spreading the fragrance of burning frankincense, and which were occupied by men and women wearing clean holiday attire and adorned with sandal paste, flower wreaths, and jewelry. The Pitris and Devas were duly worshipped and holy men sumptuously fed, and they were requested to pronounce their blessings. The bride of handsome appearance was well bathed, draped with a new pair of uncut pieces of cloth, and decorated with the choicest jewelry. The symbolic marriage of ornaments called kautuka was tied on her wrist. Learned Brahmanas chanted mantras from Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas to afford protection to the bride from all adverse psychic forces, while other priests who were versed in Atharva Veda offered oblations in fire to the accompaniment of chants from that Veda to the pacification of plants. The king, the king who knew the scriptures well, made to the Brahmanas offerings of gold, silver, clothes, mulch cows, besides sweets made of sesame seed and jaggery, such as Bhishmaka did for his daughter, the bride. Dharmagoshas, the king of Chedi, engaged Brahmanas versed in the Vedas and rituals to perform all the necessary sacred rites for the well-being and prosperity of his son Sisupala, the proposed bridegroom. Then Sisupala and his party started to Kundina, surrounded by an army consisting of chariots decorated with golden chains, regiments of elephants in Rath, cavalry, and foot soldiers. He was welcomed by the king of Vidarbha, and after a fitting reception, taken to a special residence reserved for him. There were assembled a very large number of kings who were friends and allies of Sisupala. Persons like Salva, Jarasandha, Dantavaktra, Vidurata, and Pandraka. All these kings, enemies of Rama and Krishna, had gathered with the full complement of troops and vehicles to put up a combined resistance and secure the princess for Sisupala himself. If Rama and Krishna with the army of Yadus were to appear and try to seize the girl by force. Hearing about the intentions of the hostile group of kings and about Krishna going single-handed to seize the girl by force, Rama felt that most probably there would be a battle. Out of his deep affection for his brother, Balarama soon started for Kundina with a strong army of chariots, elephants, cavalry, and foot soldiers. Rukmini awaiting the message from Krishna. Bhishmaka's daughter, expecting Krishna to make his appearance, took her seat in the top story of the building for observation, but she was deeply disappointed to know that even the Brahmana had not returned. So she began to think, only one night intervenes between now and the time fixed for my marriage. Alas, I am an unfortunate creature. Krishna has not yet come. I do not know why. Besides, even the Brahmana sent as my messenger has not returned. Probably, after he got ready to start, that Holy One, Lord Krishna, might have become aware of some defect in me and changed his intention to marry me. Or else, the Brahmana at least should have returned. The Creator is not favorable to me, a luckless being. Sri Parameshwara too is not favorable. Even Parvati, the daughter of the mountain and the consort of Rudra, is indifferent to me. Thinking thus, with her mind absorbed in Govinda, she closed her tear-drenched eyes for a while, as she knew that the time for the procession had not yet come, and that there was a time yet for Krishna to arrive. While the bride was thus awaiting the arrival of Krishna, her left thigh, hand and eye experienced throbs, indicating the approach of favorable occurrences. Immediately after, the Brahmana's messenger with the message from Krishna met the king's daughter in the inner apartments. Seeing the joyous expression on his face and his leisurely movements, Rukmini, who was skilled in diving people's thoughts from external signs, began to speak to him with a smiling face. The Brahmana informed her of the arrival of Krishna at the capital and of his vow to carry her off. Her joy on knowing Krishna's arrival was so overwhelming that, unable to think of any adequate present she could give to the Brahmana, she fell prostrate at his feet. Reception to Krishna at Kundina. Hearing that Rama and Krishna had arrived to attend the marriage, Bhishmaka, the king of Vidarbha, received them with due honors, to the accompaniment of the blare of trumpets. Presenting Madhuparka, clothes, and other valuable presents, he honored them in the proper way and with due respect. That wise monarch arranged for their residence at an attractive spot and extended his unstinted hospitality to them and their followers, including the troops. In this way, the king arranged for the comfortable residence and the supply of all needs of the visiting royalties according to their prestige, position, age, power, and wealth. Hearing about Krishna's arrival, the residents of Vidarbha's capital gathered in numbers to imbibe the beauty of his lotus-like face.
They began to say amongst themselves, Rukmani alone deserves to be the wife of Krishna, and he, perfect in form and character, is the only befitting husband for Rukmani. If we were, if we have even a little of meritorious deeds to our credit, may the Supreme Lord be pleased to grant our prayer that Krishna holds Rukmani's hand in wedlock. Rukmani procession to the temple, while the citizens, overcome by fascination, were mutually expressing their concern. The bride started for the temple for the Divine Mother, protected by a guard of soldiers. She walked on foot to worship the Divine Mother's sacred feet, with her mind all the while held in prayerful absorption at the feet of Krishna. Accompanied by elderly ladies and friends, and observing the vow of silence, she walked in the procession, protected on all sides by fully armed soldiers, and amidst the blare of the trumpets and the sound of tom-toms, conches, large drums, and kettle drums. Innumerable hateria with various kinds of offerings, the Brahmana women dressed in new clothes and decorated with flowers, sandal paste and jewelries, went with the procession to the Devi's temple. Singers who were experts at musical instruments, storytellers, bards, and minstrels accompanied the procession of the bride, singing and reciting verses of praise. On reaching the Devi's temple, Rukmani washed her hands and feet, performed purificatory rites with water, and entered the shrine with a calm mind. Several elderly Brahmana women who were conversant with scriptural injunctions helped the young bride in worshipping the goddess Bhavani, non-separate from her consort Parmeshwara. She prayed, O Mother Devi, I prostrate again and again before thee, thy offspring Ganesha and Kartikeya. May Bhagwan Krishna be my husband. May thou be pleased to grant this. Worship was done separately with water, with combination of sandal paste and unbroken rice, with frankincense, with cloth, reeds, and jewels, with various forms of presents and food, and with the waving of lights. Worship and offerings were made also to Brahmana women with husbands alive, with the above ingredients, besides with salt, cakes, betel, necklaces, fruit, and sugarcane. These women blessed her and gave her the whole offered remnant of offered substances, and she received the same, bowing down to these women and the Devi. Now she broke her vow of silence and came out of the temple, holding the hand of a lady in waiting, revealing her fingers resplendent with gem-studded rings. Krishna carries away Rukmani. As she came out, she looked like a world-enchanting Maya of the Lord, upsetting the minds of even heroes, possessed of a slender waist, having a face reflecting the luster of her earrings, a charming teenager wearing a gem-studded girdle around her waist, with budding breasts, with a loving smile and restless eyeballs that seemed to withdraw quickly from the corner of her eyes, lest they should be lost in her girlish tresses, having teeth white like jasmine buds, tinged crimson by the reflection of her bimba-like lips, and walking like a swan, with lovely feet on which anklets shone, producing a tinkling sound. Such was her form, seeing which the assembled heroes of note and fame became overpowered by amorous sentiment. On seeing the bashful looks and bewitching smiles of the princess, who, under the guise of a temple procession, was really making an offering to her of her beauty to Sri Hari, those kings lost control over their weapons and fell down in swoon from their chariots, horses, and elephants on account of the stunning infatuation that her beauty produced. While walking on her feet, resembling a pair of slow-moving lotus buds, she, in order to see whether the Lord had arrived, swept aside swept aside her dropping frontal curls, and had a timorous look at the assembled royalties with a sidelong glance, whereupon, lo, in their midst she sighted Achyuta, the unchanging being. Seeing the princess eager to join him in the chariot, Madhava took her by force in the very presence of his antagonists and seated her in the eagle-marked chariots, ignoring the contempt the whole assemblage of rulers. Then, along with Balarama and others, he slowly started home, carrying away what was his due, just as a lion lifts its prey from amidst a pack of jackals. But his proud enemies, like Jarasandha, would not brook this insult that brought disrepute to them. They cried out, "Fire upon us! The reputation of us, armed warriors, have been plundered by these cowherds, just as of lions by a herd of deer." Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsayam Sanghitayam Dashamaskande Uttarade Rukmani Haranam Nama Tripancha Sattamodhyaya Atha Chatupancha Sattamodhyaya. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Krishna's marriage with Rukmani. Discomfiture of Shishupala and other kings. Sri Sukha said, violently angry, all these rulers, protected by coats of mail, holding uplifted bows and surrounded by their respective troops, pursued Krishna in their chariots. O king, seeing the advancing army of these rulers, the leaders of the Yadava army got ready their bows and weapons and arrayed their forces against them. Seated on horses or elephants or in chariots, trained archers of the royal forces began to rain volleys of arrows as clouds shower torrents of rain on mountains. Handsome Rukmani was frightened to note that her husband's army was almost hidden by the rain of arrows and looked at Krishna's face with bashful nervousness. The Bhagavan said to her with a smile, "O handsome girl, fear not. Very soon you will see our army destroying the army of the enemy. Furious at the attack, heroes like Gada and Balarama began to destroy the enemy chariots, horses, and elephants. Numberless heads of soldiers, decorated with earrings, diadems, and turbans, rode on the ground. Severed hands with weapons, legs and feet of men, and heads of animals like horses, mules, elephants, and camels fell on the battlefield. The determined fight put up by the Vrishnis resulted in the total destruction of the enemy forces, whereupon leaders like Jarasandha finally gave up the fight and withdrew. There stood Shishupala, like one whose wife had been abducted, stunned, sorrow-stricken, crestfallen, and pale. These kings approached him and said, "Hearken, hearken, O most heroic among men, sorrow not. Happiness and suffering are never constant for men in this world. Just as a wooden doll dances as regulated by the puppet master, So is the jiva subjected to control of Ishvara in respect of enjoyments and sufferings. I, Jarasandha, heading armies of 23 Akshahunis, got defeated by Krishna 17 times. Only in one campaign was I victorious. Still, realizing that it is time prompted by Ishvara that brings about happiness and the contrary to men, I remain unaffected by joy or grief. Now also we, the supreme commanders of several army units and their officers, have been defeated by a much smaller army of Yadus led by Krishna. Our enemies are now victorious because time is in their favor. In the same way, when time turns in our favor, we shall conquer them. Consoled thus by his friends, the ruler of the Chedis returned to the capital. Such of, such, such of the kings as had not been slaughtered also returned to their respective places. Deformation of Rukmi. Deformation of Rukmi. Rukmi, a great enemy of Krishna, could not tolerate the idea of Krishna's marriage with his sister by abduction. So he pursued Krishna with an army of an Akshahuni strength, smarting under the insult of and incest to the extreme. Rukmi, with his armor on and bow in hand, vowed as follows in the hearing of all the assembled kings: without killing Krishna in battle and recovering Rukmani, I shall not enter the city of Kundina again. This in truth I swear before you all. Saying so, he got into his chariot in haste and ordered his charioteer, drive towards the place where Krishna is. I have to settle accounts with him in battle. That impudent pride in his own power, because of which this fellow of a cowherd dared to abduct my sister, I shall put an end to it with my sharp arrows. Without any inkling of the infinite power of Krishna, the Lord of all, this foolish and self-glorious man pursued the Lord single-handed in his chariot, challenging and shouting all sorts of foul and silly abuses. With 3 arrows released from his bow with maximum strength, he hit Krishna and cried out, "You fellow, a blot on the race of Yadus, stop for a while. Where are you running away, stealing my sister, just as a crow snatches away sacrificial offerings? Oh, at once I shall erase your pride, you an artful pseudo-hero. Before you fall down, struck dead by my arrows, release my sister." Smiling at his challenge, Krishna cut his bow to pieces and pierced him with 6 arrows. Krishna hit the 4 horses of his chariot with 8 arrows, charioteer with 2, and the flagstaff with 3. Rukmani thereupon took another bow and hit Krishna with 5 arrows. Struck by an arrow released by Rukmi, Krishna again cut the bow of the latter. Rukmi now took still another bow and Krishna cut that too. Sri Hari struck down with his arrows the variety of weapons Rukmi brandished, like iron clubs, spears, tridents, swords, and shields, lances, and rods. Next, Rukmi jumped out of his chariot and, sword in hand, rushed to Krishna to kill him. But it was only like a moth rushing at fire. The furiously charging Rukmi's sword and shield were cut into small bits with arrows by Krishna, who now took his sharp sword to kill him. Rukmini was overwhelmed with fear to see that her brother was about to be killed. She fell at her husband's feet and said the following words piteously: "O thou master of yoga, O inestimable one, O Lord of all divinities, O master of the worlds, O auspicious one, O mighty armed, it does not behold thee to kill my brother."
his feet being held fast by her, whose limbs shivered through fright, whose face and voice shrank out of sorrow, and whose golden necklace dropped to the ground in her agony, Sri Krishna exercised his mercy and checked himself from slaying Rukmi. The offending Rukmi was thereupon tied up by clothes, and he was deformed by the partial tonsuring of his head and face. By that time the Yadava leaders had crushed and scattered the enemy forces as an elephant lays waste to lotus pond. Rama's advice to Krishna and Rukmini. When the Yadavas reached Krishna, they found Rukmi there, bound up and deformed, almost dead out of shame. The sight generated pity in the mind of the large-hearted Balarama, who released him from bondage and said to Krishna, "O Krishna, you have done something inelegant. This way of deforming a relative by tonsure does not behove us. It is equal to the infliction of death." Then, comforting Rukmini, he said, "Do not think ill of us for deforming your brother, for the enjoyments and sufferings we experience in life are not caused by others, they are of our own making. For the truth is that man reaps the fruit of his own actions." Again he said to Krishna, "A relative, though guilty, must not be killed by a relative. He should only be turned out. For this his own misdeed will bring him ill fame, which is equal to death. A person who has thus been killed once does not deserve to be killed again." Next, consoling Rukmini once more, he said, "This is the gruesome duty that has been imposed on the Kshatriyas by Prajapati himself. In battle, a brother will have to kill his own brother." Then, chastising Krishna, "Only people who have lost their discrimination through infatuation of power and pelf will fight with close kith and kin for the sake of territory, land, wealth, women, reputation, or display of one's prowess." Then, finding Rukmini's resentment unabated, he admonished her, "It is a perversion of intelligence if you, like an utterly senseless person, think that one who is noted for his universal ill will should always meet with benevolence and kindness just because that person happens to be your relative. It will finally recall in the person you try to protect. It is the deluding power of the law that invests the body-centered man with the distinctions of friend, foe, and neutral. The Supreme Spirit is one in all embodied beings. Only ignorance makes one think of him as many, just as in the case of the one moon and the one akasha grasped through their adjuncts. Due to ignorance, the Atman has got identified with the body, which is of the nature of material substance and vital energy, and is with a beginning and an end. Identification with the body makes the spirit feel the experiences of the body as he is, and thus subjects him to transmigration. The Atman has no real union or disunion with anything other than itself. For what are called the others, the body, the mind, and other adjuncts with which it is supposed to unite and disunite, have no real existence apart from the spirit, the Atman. It is only an aspect of the appearance of the spirit being its cause and substance. So in the perception of such union and disunion, only the spirit is involved, and there is no other. It is just like the sun being the common matrix of both the eye and the form it perceives. Birth, etc. are the changes of the body, never of the Atman. The moon has no real waxing and waning, though its kalas or phases seem to wax and wane. And that is like Amavasya, the last day of the dark fortnight, when the moon is totally invisible, though she is fully present. Just as a man lying in a place dreaming experiences a objects, and the act of enjoyment, though these distinctions are not actually there, so are the experiences of the man in deep sleep of ignorance. Therefore, O handsome girl, conquered through realization of the truth, the sorrow that ignorance brings, deluding the understanding and dimming the spiritual consciousness, attained to peace thereby. Marriage of Krishna with Rukmini. Sri Krishna Sukha said, instructed in this way by Bhagavan Rama, Rukmini abandoned the sorrow of her heart and pacified herself through discrimination. Defeated and deprived of his army and lusted by enemies, with his mere life spared, set free by them, deformed and deprived of all his hopes and expectations, Rukmini now resolved to stay alone away from his capital. He built a new place called Borjakata and stayed there in a mood of deadly enmity to Krishna, declaring that until the villain Krishna was slain and his sister rescued, he would not enter Kundina. O Parikshit, O leader of the Kurus, defeating all the rulers in this way, Lord Krishna took the daughter of Bhishmaka to his city of Dwaraka and married her according to Vedic rites. In the city of the Yadavas, where the inhabitants had unqualified love and loyalty to Sri Krishna, their protector, there was not a house where the occasion was not celebrated as a great festival. Wearing polished and shining earrings and dressed in clothes of bright hue and attractive designs, men and women offered presents to the newly married couple. The capital of the Yadus shone in all its splendor with hoisted Indra flags, with decorations of attractive wreaths, clothes, and gems, with houses whose fronts displayed various auspicious substances like ceremonial water jars, lights, and burning frankincense. The roads were watered with the ichor of plants in rat that the visiting kings brought with them. The roads were watered with ichor of elephants in rat that the visiting kings brought with them. The doors of the buildings were decorated with plantain trees and aracanut palms. Crowds of men from various lands, like those of the Kurus, Sri Jayas, Kekayas, Vidarbhas, and Kuntis, moved about hither and thither, enthusiastically, cheerfully, accosting one another. All kings and royal ladies heard with great surprise the story of Krishna's abduction of Rukmini, sung by minstrels. Great was the delight of all the inhabitants of Dwaraka on seeing Krishna, the lord of Sri Devi, wedded to Rukmini, who was none but that Shri herself.
Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsya Samsyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttarade Rukmini Nu Dwahe Chatu Pancha Ratnamo Dhyaya Ata Pancha Ratnamo Dhyaya Shri Shukha Uvachaha.
Skanda 10, chapter 55, the birth of Pradyumna, birth and abduction of Pradyumna. Sri Sukha said, Kamadeva Cupid, who is a part of Vasudeva, was burned in the fire of Rudra's anger. In order to get a new body, he now approached Vasudeva, Krishna himself. He was born as Krishna's son in Rukmini, the princess of Vidarbha, and under the name of Pradyumna, he was to become a famous personage in no way inferior to his father. The Asura Sambara, who could take any form, knew that the son of Krishna was his enemy, destined to kill him, and therefore threw the infant Pradyumna into the sea and went home. A huge fish swallowed the child, but the fish itself was caught in a big net by a group of fisherfolk. The fisherman gave the catch as a present to Sambara. The fish was taken into the kitchen, where the cooks cut open that wonderful fish. Seeing the infant within, they sent information about it to Mayavati, the superintendent of the kitchen. While she stood surprised and puzzled, Narada the sage came there and informed her everything about the child, Pradyumna, under Mayavati's care. This Mayavati was none other than Rati, the wife of Kama, Cupid, awaiting the re-embodiment of her husband, burnt up in the wrath of Shiva. She had been appointed as the head of the cooking department in Sambara's household. Knowing that the child was Kama reborn, she began to love that child. Before long, he, the son of Krishna, developed into a youth, creating agitation in the minds of all ladies who looked at him. Seeing her lord, long-armed, lotus-eyed, and most handsome among the men, Rati approached him one day with movements of brow and smiles indicative of bashfulness, in a hilarious mood, expressive of sexual interest. But Yamuna, the son of Krishna, then said to her, "O mother, overriding a mother's attitude, how are you behaving towards me like a lover?" She replied, "Lord, you are the son of Krishna, Narayana incarnate. You were stolen away as an infant from home by Sambara. You are Kamadeva, reborn, and I am Rati, your wife by right. Thus Sambara threw you into the ocean as an infant less than 10 days old. As a fish swallowed you, and you were found in its stomach. Destroyed this Asura, your enemy, through the magical warfare. He himself is an expert in such warfare, and is difficult to be defeated or overthrown. Having lost her child, your poor bereaved mother is in sorrow like a cow or an osprey that has lost its offspring." With these words, Mayavati, as Rati, was now known imparted to the high-souled Pradyumna the secret of the art known as Maya, which can dispel the effects of every form of magical art. Pradyumna's fight with Sambara. Thereafter, Pradyumna confronted Sambara and provoked him to terrific anger by hurling abuses at him, and thus drew him to a fight. Insulted by abuses, Sambara reacted like a snake trodden upon, and came out red-eyed with a mace in hand. He whirled his mace and threw it at the high-souled Pradyumna and gave out a yell, starting like a thunderclap. "O king, with his own mace, Pradyumna struck off the mace that was coming at him and attacked the Asura with his mace. The Asura then adopted the tactics of magical warfare that he had learned from Maya. He disappeared in the sky and began to rain arrows at Pradyumna. Harassed by this rain of arrows, the great cow warrior Pradyumna made use of the pure sattvika form of Maya called Mahavidya, which is destructive of all inferior forms of Maya. Afterwards, the Asura tried to project hundreds of various other magical devices connected with Kuyakas, Gandharvas, Pishachas, and Sarpas, but the son of Krishna repelled them all. Then, raising a sharp sword, Pradyumna, with a powerful sweep of it, cut off Sambara's head covered with copper-colored hair, together with his diadem and earrings. The Devas now sang his praise and showered flowers on him. He then went back to his city, transported through air by his wife, who knew the art of traveling through the sky, Pradyumna in Dwaraka. From the sky he descended with his wife, like the blue cloud with a streak of lightning clinging to it, into the magnificent inner apartments of the palace occupied by a very large number of ladies. Blue like a rain cloud, dressed in yellow silk, having long powerful arms, possessed of a handsome face, and graced with an inviting smile, eyes of slightly reddish tinge, and bluish frontal curls. Pradyumna was mistaken for Krishna by the women who bashfully hid themselves here and there at his sudden appearance. Noticing in the newcomer some differences from Krishna, they approached him, who was accompanied by a handsome lady, with great astonishment and joy. Then Rukmini, the handsome and the sweet-tongued, felt that milk was oozing from her breast from maternal affection. This strongly brought back to her the remembrance of her lost son. She began to think, who can this most noble of men be? Whose son can this lotus-eyed one be? From whose womb could he have been born? Who can be this woman accompanying him? Years back I lost my son, who was stolen away from the labor room itself. If he is alive today, anyway, he could have been like this newcomer in age and physical development.
How has he come to have this resemblance with Krishna in respect of form, limbs, gait, voice, laughter, and look? He must be the boy born of me, for my mind is feeling a deep affection for him, and besides, my left arm is throbbing. While Rukmini was thus revolving in her mind, there came to the room Krishna, the Lord of abounding glory, along with Devaki and Vasudeva. Though the Lord Krishna had always known the whole truth about these affairs, he had so far not revealed it to anybody. At this juncture, the sage Narada arrived there and explained to them all about the incidents, starting with the abduction of Sambara. All the womenfolk of Krishna's household heard the story with immense astonishment. They rejoiced to see the long-lost one, as if he were a dead person returning to life. Devaki and Vasudeva, Krishna and Rama, as well as Rukmini and the ladies of the household were all delighted to embrace the newly arrived couple. Hearing that Pradyumna, the lost son of Krishna, had come back, they all exclaimed in astonishment, saying that it was just as if he had died and returned to life. Many a time the mothers of Pradyumna, the wives of Krishna, seeing in him the very replica of his father's form, had in privacy approached him with amorous sentiments. There is no wonder in it, seeing that in him one came face to face with that very Kamadeva, who agitates the minds of even Brahma and Parameswara, and who was the very reflection of him, Mahavishnu, that is Krishna, who is the seat of Rama, the center of all beauty. The attraction felt by other women can then be better guessed than described. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttarade Pradyumnot Pati Nirupanam Nama Pancharatamo Dhyayah Atha Shashta Ratamo Dhyayah. Sri Shukha Uvacha. Skanda 10, chapter 56. The story of the jewel Syamantaka. Satrajit acquired Syamantaka. Sri Sukha said, Satyajit, who was the cause of bringing disrepute to Krishna, sought expiation for his offense by offering the jewel Syamantaka together with his daughter to Krishna. The Raja said, O Holy One, what harm did Satrajit do to Krishna? Sri Sukha said, the sun deity once became very friendly to his devotee, Satrajit. Pleased with him, the sun deity presented him with the jewel Syamantaka. Wearing this jewel round his neck and shining like the sun deity himself, Satrajit entered Dwaraka, almost impossible to be distinguished from the brilliance around him. People whose eyes were dazzled even from a distance at his sight believed that the sun deity was coming and reported the matter to the Lord, who was then playing at dice. They said, O Narayana, O thou who art armed with a conch, discus and mace, O thou who wert tied to the mortar, O thou the lotus-eyed, O thou the protector of Gokula, O thou the joy of the Yadus, salutations to thee. Here comes to see thee, O Lord of the worlds, that Surya, sun deity of fierce brilliance, blinding the eyes of all onlookers with his aura of light rays. It is common for all divinities in the three worlds to seek thee. Now it seems the sun is coming to see thee, discovering that thou art now hiding thy identity as one among the Yadus. Sri Sukha said, hearing these words of the credulous people, the Lord smiled and said, this is not the sun deity, but Satrajit, shining with the luster of the jewel he has acquired. Satyajit now went to his own house that was kept well decorated with all auspicious things for his reception. With the help of Brahmana priests, he had the jewel installed in the temple of the sun, his favorite deity. O king, where this jewel is kept and worshipped, it yields daily 8 loads of gold. Besides, none of the causes of misery like poverty, contagious diseases, misfortunes, attack by serpents, thefts, worries, etc. will prevail there. The evils caused by Syamantaka. Once Krishna requests Satyajit to hand over this jewel to the king of the Yadus. But in his greed for gold, Yadava did not do so. Unmindful of the evil consequences of rejecting the request, one day Prasena, the brother of Satyajit, went hunting with that luminous jewel tied to his neck. In the forest, a lion killed Prasena along with the horse he was riding. The lion, which went into the mountain fastness, taking the jewel with it, was attacked and killed by Jambavan, the lord of the bears. Jambavan took possession of the jewel, returned to his cave, and gave it to his child to play with. Not finding his brother Prasena returning, Satyajit grew very anxious. He gave out that his brother, who went to the forest adorned with the jewel, must certainly have been killed by Krishna in order to rob him of the jewel. This scandal traveled from ear to ear and spread everywhere. The fight with Jambavan. When he reached the ears of the Lord, he decided to clear himself of the disrepute arising from this allegation, and accordingly started to trace the footsteps of Prasena, accompanied by the body of citizens. In the course of their search, they came across the dead body of Prasena and his horse, killed by the lion, and later they also saw on the mountaintop the carcass of the lion slaughtered by the king of the bears. Then they reached the cave of the bear, which was fearful and pitch dark within. The Lord entered it, keeping his followers outside. Then he saw the precious jewel set apart as a plaything for the child of the bear, and desiring to take it away, he approached the child. Seeing the strange form of a man approaching the governess of the child, he cried out in fear, and roused to great anger by that cry, the powerful Jambavan came running. Jambavan, who did not know that his adversary was none but his master, Rama, now manifesting as Krishna, took him to be an ordinary man and fought with him in great anger, without understanding his greatness. Like 2 hogs struggling with a piece of flesh, there was a fierce duel between them, using weapons, stones, and fists. For 28 days and nights, without a break, they fought continuously, hitting each other with their endamine fists, with his joints dislocated by the blows of Krishna's fists. Enfeebled, exhausted, and perspiring, Jambavan said to his adversaries as follows in great astonishment. Jambavan, on knowing about the divinity of Krishna through introspection, I know thee to be the mover within all beings, as the strength of their senses, heart and body, as the all-pervading being and director of Prakriti, as one of unlimited prowess and the controller of everything. Thou art the prime mover, being the creator of the creator, Brahma. Thou art the substantial cause too, because all materials of creation derive their substantiality from thee. Thou art the soul of time, the supreme power, drawing everything into it. Thou art the soul of souls in all beings, and thou art the supreme being, the Lord of all divinities. Thou art he whose slightly angry look made the ocean with all its giant creatures boil and yield passage, who built a bridge over it, a worthy monument to thy glory, who caused Lanka to be burned, and whose arrows struck down the heads of Rakshasas in large numbers. The Supreme Lord, born as the son of Devaki, now spoke to the Lord of Bears, who came to recognize his identity. The lotus-eyed Lord, stroking the body of that devotee with his soothing hand, spoke to him in his loving and sonorous voice. O King of Bears, in order to clear us of the false and defaming charge brought against us in connection with Syamantaka, we happened to come to this cave. On hearing this, Jambavan gave the jewel as also his daughter as an offering to Krishna. Krishna's return and marriage with Satyabhama. The men accompanying Krishna waited outside the cave for 12 days, but not finding Krishna coming out, returned home in grief. Hearing that Krishna did not come out of the cave, Devaki, Rukmini, Vasudeva, and other friends and relatives felt deep sorrow. The sorrow-stricken inhabitants of Dwarka began to curse Satyajit and began to pray to Durga, the mysterious mother, for the return of Krishna. Soon after they had prayed to the goddess, she responded, as it were, through the appearance of Krishna in their midst, along with his new bride, Jambavati. The return of Krishna was to all like the restoration of a dead man to life. Seeing him with his new wife and the Syamantaka adorning his neck, everyone rejoiced exceedingly. Krishna had Satyajit summoned to the king's assembly, and there gave him the Syamantaka, explaining how it was traced. With his head bending under a great sense of shame, he received the jewel and went home, repenting of his misdeeds. Grieving in mind for thoughtlessly quarreling with a great man, Satyajit thought deeply how he could erase his guilt and win the favor of Krishna. He thought, what should I do for my welfare? How can I stop people from cursing me, the short-sighted, mean and greedy man that I am? I shall give my daughter, jewel among women, together with the Syamantaka to Krishna. This is the best way of reconciliation. There is none else. Resolving thus within, he himself went with his daughter, possessed of all virtuous qualities as well as the jewel, and offered them to Krishna. The Lord then married, according to scriptural rites, that daughter of Satyajit, Satyabhama, was possessed of various qualifications like nobility of nature, beauty, generosity, and the like, and for whom many high-positioned men were coming forward as suitors. O king, the Lord said to Satyajit, we shall not accept the jewel Syamantaka. It is best that it is with you who are a devotee of the sun deity. We too may afterwards benefit by it, as Satyabhama is your only child to inherit your possession. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttarade Syamantako Pakhane Shashta Pancharatamo Dhyaya Atha Sasta Sapta Pancharatamo Dhyaya Sri Sukha Uvacha. Skanda 10, chapter 57, the subsequent story of Syamantaka. Satyajit. Sri Sukha said, on hearing about the reported death of Kunti with her sons, the Pandavas in a fire accident, the Lord, though he knew the truth, nonetheless started with Rama to the land of the Kurus in order to fulfill the conventional obligations of a relative. Meeting Vidura, Bhishma, Kripa, Gandhari, and Drona, they joined them as partners in their mourning. O king, taking advantage of this absence of Krishna from Dwarka, a conspiracy was hatched by Akrura and Krita Varma, who prompted a Yadava named Satyadanva to seize the Syamantaka from Satyajit. They said to him, Satyajit has betrothed his daughter to you. Breaking that promise, he has given her to Krishna. Why should not Satyajit go the way of his brother, Prasen? Instigated by them in this way and prompted by greed for wealth, the evil-spirited and sinful Satyadanva, whose own days were numbered, murdered Satyajit in cold blood while he was lying asleep. As a butcher kills animals, he killed Satyajit amidst the outcries and wailings of helpless women and took away the jewel. Seeing the dead body of her father, Satyabhama swooned in extreme sorrow, crying out, O father, I am undone. She preserved the dead body in an oil bath and then went to Hastinapur and pathetically appraised Krishna of her father's death, although Krishna had already come to know about it himself. On receiving the tragic news, Ram and Krishna, following the way of the world, wept with sorrow, crying, "A great calamity has befallen us." Krishna now returned to his city of Dwarka along with Balarama and his wife Satyabhama and took steps to kill Satadhanva and take the jewel from him. On hearing about Krishna's intention, Satadhanva got frightened and, with the idea of saving at least his life, sought the help of Kritavarma, who said to him, "I cannot do anything that goes against Rama and Krishna, who are divinities. To offend them is not the way to happiness for anyone." By antagonizing them, Kamsa, rid of his good fortune, met with destruction along with all his allies. So also Jarasandha, who led 17 campaigns against them, had to run away on foot every time because of the total destruction of his forces. Thus, rebuffed, Satadhanva went to Akrura for support, but he too retreated, saying that no one who knew anything about the power of those divinities would antagonize them.
He said, "He creates, protects, and dissolves the universe as a sport. Being subject to his Maya, none including Brahma, the creator, can fathom his ways. As a boy of 7, he uprooted a mountain and for a week held it up in one hand with the utmost ease, just like a child holding a mushroom. Salutations to Krishna, the worshipful one of wondrous deeds, the partless being, the original one, changeless spirit. Flight of Satadhanva and his destruction. Being thus rebuffed by Akrura too, Satadhanva deposited the jewel Syamantaka with Akrura and, getting on a speedy horse that could cover a distance of 100 yojanas at a stretch, fled away from Dwarka. Rama and Krishna now ascended their chariots with the standard of Garuda, to which were attached very fast horses, and pursued the murderer of the respected elder. Reaching the precincts of Mithila, Satadhanva's horse fell dead under him, and from there he began to run on foot in great fear, followed by the irate Krishna. Krishna too, following the running Satadhanva on foot, cut off his head with his sharp discus, and then searched his garments for the jewel. Not finding it with him, Krishna went to his brother and said, "Satadhanva has been slain in vain. The jewel is not to be found with him." Thereupon Balarama said, "Satadhanva must have entrusted the jewel with someone. Let us inquire who he is. Hurry back to the city, O king." Balarama, however, said that he liked very much to see his old friend, the king of Mithila. So he went to Mithila. On seeing him, the king of Mithila got up in great joy and received that worthy guest with great honor and costly offerings. The great Balarama, thus honored with cordiality by the king of Mithila, continued to stay there for some time. During that time, Duryodhana, son of Dhritarashtra, took lessons in warfare with a mace from him. Reaching Dwaraka, Krishna informed his wife of the destruction of Satadhanva and of the failure to recover the jewel Syamantaka from him. Afterwards, Krishna had all the obsequies of his dead relative properly performed. Akrura and Kritavarma, who really prompted Satadhanva to do the crime, were very much frightened to hear of his slaughter, and to save themselves from possible danger, ran away from Dwaraka. Krishna clears himself of allegations against him. After Akrura's departure, the people of Dwaraka had to pass through many trials, both physical and mental, arising from bodily states like diseases and droughts, etc. O respected one, some inhabitants of Dwaraka began to speak, connecting the above unhappy experiences with Akrura's departure, forgetting the glory of Krishna, which they had been witnessing so often all through. For it is said that if a holy man stays in a place, misfortune will not befall that place. How can misfortunes then visit a place where Krishna, who is the seat of all holiness, stays? So if calamities are visiting Dwaraka, it must be due to the will of Krishna and not because of Akrura's absence. As against this, the elders among the citizens said, once when there was a failure of rainfall in Kashi, the king of that place gave his daughter Gandhini in marriage to Swapalka, the father of Akrura, who happened to be there at the time. And then they had rain in Kashi. This is a well-known fact. Akrura, the son of Swapalka, also has got the powers of his father. Wherever he is, there will be good rain, natural calamities, and contagious diseases will not occur. Hearing this view of the elders, Krishna, in order to disprove it, called back Akrura to Dwaraka and talked with him. Extending all honors to him and exchanging some pleasantries with him, Sri Krishna, who had the foreknowledge of all facts about Akrura and his intentions, said, addressing him, O Akrura, it is already known to me that Satadhanva had deposited the glorious Yamantaka with you. Now Satyajit is without any son. His properties are to go to his daughter's children, who have the duty of relieving this debt of ancestors by the performance of obsequies, like offering of water libation, rice balls. Still, as the jewel is too dangerous for ordinary people to wear, I thought that only a person of great austerity and spiritual worth like you is competent to wear it. But my Mama has no full trust in my intentions regarding the jewel. He believes that I am holding it unknown to anyone. O fortunate one, in order to restore peace among relatives, please show the jewel in your possession publicly. That it is with you is sure, for you are carrying it on your daily sacrificial rites on altars of gold. The son of Swapalka, who was thus won over with good words, took the like the sun from its cloth cover and placed it in Krishna's hand, showing the Syamantaka to all people related, and washing off the stain on him with this display of that jewel, the Lord gave it again to Akrura. Reads, hears, or remembers the story of Syamantaka, which reveals the power and glory of Mahavishnu, the all-pervading being, and which is auspicious and destructive of all sins, will rid himself of all ill repute and is a cause and its cause sin, and attain to peace. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttararde Syamantako Pakhyane Sapta Pancha Shattamo Dhyaya Athashtha Pancha Shattamo Dhyaya Uvacha Skanda 10, chapter 58. The other marriages of Krishna. Krishna at Indraprastha. Once after the re-emergence of the Pandavas from their supposed death in fire accident, Krishna, the supreme and all auspicious being, went to Indraprastha to see them, accompanied by Yuyudhana and others. Seeing him, the Lord of all and the bestower of liberation, all the heroic sons of Pritha got up at once, as all the Indriyas would behave of Mukhya Prana. The heroic Pandavas, after embracing Krishna and thus ridding themselves of all their sins by his physical contact, looked at his smiling face full of love and derived great joy. Krishna prostrated himself at the feet of Yudhishthira and Bhima, who were elder to him, embraced Arjuna, who was of the same age as himself, and was greeted with prostration by Nakula and Sahadeva, who were younger to him. Panchali, the newly wedded wife of the Pandavas, approached Krishna, who was seated on a highly elevated seat with a little of bashful hesitation, and made her obeisance. Next, they duly honored Satyaki, otherwise known as Yuyudhana, and conducted him to another seat. So were also the others accompanying Krishna, treated honorably by the Pandavas. Krishna next went to meet Kunti. Greeted by him, she embraced him as a son, shedding tears on account of overwhelming affection. After she made inquiries about the welfare of Vasudeva and others, Krishna conversed with her who met him in the company of her new daughter-in-law. Remembering the various trials and tribulations she had passed through, her voice was choked and tears filled her eyes as she spoke to Krishna, who removes all sorrows of jivas by giving them the knowledge of the Atman. She said, "O Krishna, we felt happy and protected even when you remembered us, your relatives, and sent my cousin Akrura to make inquiries about us. To you, who are the well-wisher and the Atman of the whole world, there is no distinction between friend and alien. Still, in the case of those who remember you always, you remain ever in the hearts and remove their sufferings." Yudhishthira said, "I do not know by virtue of what pious acts of ours, ignorant people, that you, who are difficult to be perceived even by the great yogis, have come within our sight." Requested by the Raja Yudhishthira, the Lord spent the 4 rainy months of the year there, bestowing great bliss to the eyes of the residents of Indraprastha. Marriage with Kalindi. During one of these days, Arjuna, accompanied by Sri Krishna and equipped with mail, his bow Gandiva and his 2 inexhaustible quivers, got into his chariot having the monkey as the standard and went on a hunting expedition in a dense forest infested with wild animals. In the hunt, he killed with his arrows many animals like tigers, boars, wild buffaloes, antelopes, sarabhas, gavayas, deer, rhinos, hares, and porcupines. From among them, such game as were considered fit as were sent to Yudhishthira through porters for use at the sacrifice on the next Amavasya day. Then Arjuna, very thirsty and tired by the hunt, went to the banks of the Yamuna for refreshing himself. Arjuna and Krishna, after purificatory rite with water, drank the pure water of the Yamuna. While resting on the banks, they saw there a very handsome maiden moving about. They went towards that beauty of lovely face and sparkling teeth. Prompted by Krishna, Arjuna addressed her as follows: "O handsome lady, who are you? Whose daughter are you? Where have you come from? What is it that you are seeking? It looks as if you are in search of a husband. Please tell me all about yourself." The lady Kalindi said, "I am the daughter of the sun deity. As husband, I am seeking Mahavishnu, who is the greatest of all and who gives boons to and performing severe austerities. O hero, I shall not take anyone else's husband. May that worshipful one, the support of the friendless, the granter of mukti, be gracious unto me. My name is Kalindi. In a house built by my father under the water of Yamuna, I shall be staying till I meet Achyuta as the Lord incarnate." Arjuna reported this to Krishna, who already knew the truth about her. Krishna now took her into the chariot and they drove to the presence of the righteous Yudhishthira. Burning of Khandava. On the Pandava brothers intimating to Krishna the need for a proper residence, Krishna engaged the divine architect Vishwakarma to build for them a city unique in its layout and construction. While the Lord was staying within the city of Pandavas in order to please them, he acted as Arjuna's charioteer in the conflict that took place when Arjuna helped Agni to consume the forest of Khandava. O king, the deity Agni, being pleased with this, rewarded Arjuna, bestowing on him a chariot drawn by white horses, a bow known as Gandiva, two quivers with inexhaustible stock of arrows, and a mail which no arrows could pierce.
Maya, the architect of the Asuras, was in the Khandava forest when it was burned. He was saved from the fire, and out of gratitude he made an assembly hall for his benefactor Arjuna. It was in this hall that Duryodhana had the perceptual illusion between land and watery surfaces. Permitted by Arjuna and the other Pandavas and cheered by them, Krishna, accompanied by Satyaki and others, went back to Dwarka. Marriage with Kalindi and Mitravinda. Reaching Dwarka in a season and under a star that were very auspicious, Krishna solemnized his marriage with Kalindi to the great joy of all. Vinda and Anuvinda of Avanti, who were the friends of Duryodhana and antagonistic to Krishna, did not permit their sister Mitravinda was longing to marry Krishna, to choose him in a wedding like bridal choice. Therefore, in the presence of all kings, Krishna by force abducted this Mitravinda, who was the daughter of his father's sister, Raja Devi, marriage with Satya. In Kosala, there was a very pious king called Nagnajit. He had a very handsome daughter, Satya, also known as Nagnajiti, after her father's name. No one was considered eligible to marry her unless he managed to subdue 7 bulls which were perverse by nature, intolerant of the very smell of valiant men, uncontrollable and sharp-honed. So no one could hitherto marry her. Hearing about this princess who had to be won through the conquest of the bulls, Lord Krishna, the protector of the pious, went to the capital of Kosala, Ayodhya, with a big army. The king of the Kosalas was very much pleased at this. He received Krishna with all honors and worshipped him with costly offerings. The Lord in return accepted this hospitality with due expression of gratitude and appreciation. The king's daughter, on seeing that the Lord of Rama, who was very much to her heart, had come to her house seeking her hand in marriage, prayed, "May he become my husband. If I have been meditating on him with devotion and observing austere rules, may my pure aspiration come true. He, the dust of whose feet even Brahma, Shiva, and Sri Devi put on their heads, who assume sportive embodiments as incarnations from time to time for the protection of the laws of Dharma that he himself has set forth. How can I propitiate him by anything I do, unless he himself becomes gracious enough to be propitious?" After receiving Krishna, King Nagnajit said to him, "O Narayana, O Lord of the worlds, for you who are ever merged in your inherent bliss, what can a small man like me do?" Sri Shuka said, Lord Krishna, after seating himself on the offered seat, said, in his sonorous voice resembling that of the cloud, his face lit up with a smile. The Lord said, "O king, for a Kshatriya who lives according to his dharma, begging has been condemned as despicable by wise men. Yet for gaining your friendship, I ask you to give your daughter to me in marriage, but we are not prepared to pay any bridal money." Raja Nagnajit replied, "Who, O Lord, can be a better bridegroom than thee? the seat of all virtues and the unceasing residence of Shri. But, O leader of the Sattvatas, because of our desire to see that the girl gets the best type of husband, we have very early instituted a test of strength for the suitors and made a vow in respect of it. These 7 bulls are wild and uncontrollable. Many a Kshatriya prince has been gored to death by them. O leader of the Yadus, if you are able to control these bulls, you, O Lord of Shri, will be the Lord of my daughter too, and all will approve of it. Hearing of this vow, Krishna at once girded up his loins, multiplied into 7 prototypes of himself, and controlled the bulls with utmost ease, as if in sport. After binding with ropes those bulls whose strength had been checked and swagger subdued, Krishna playfully dragged them hither and thither, as a child drags wooden toy bulls. Thereupon the Rajasi Natnajit, in great wonder and immense satisfaction, bestowed his daughter on the Lord, who accompanied her according to rites. All the wives of the king also were greatly delighted to know that their daughter had obtained Krishna as their husband, and the marriage was celebrated with great eclat. The sounds of conches, pipes, drums, and kettle drums mingled with those of vocal singing and the blessings pronounced by the Brahmanas. Men and women in great joy appeared in holiday dress. The king gave as dowry 10,000 cows and 3,000 female servitors, well dressed and decorated with necklaces. He also gifted an army consisting of 9,000 elephants, 100 times that number of chariots, 100 times more of horses, and still 100 times more that number of foot soldiers. The affectionate king of Ayodhya bade the couple farewell, putting them into a chariot and directing a huge army to accompany them. On getting news of this, many of those kings who had met with defeat at the hands of the Yadus in the past and had also been frustrated in their attempt to control the bulls, came forward to resist the party accompanying the newly married girl. Arjuna, who was escorting Krishna to Dwarka as a friendly gesture, now drove away these attacking warriors as a lion does jackals and other petty creatures with arrows released from his bow Gandiva. The Lord, born as the son of Devaki and as the leader of the Yadus, now happily reached Dwarka with Satya and all the wealth given as dowry. Marriage with Bhadra and Lakshmana. Krishna also married Bhadra, a daughter of his father's sister Shrutakirti. She was born in Kekaya and was offered in marriage to Krishna by her brothers Santardana and others. Next, he brought as Garuda, fetched the jar of nectar, Lakshmana of great beauty, daughter of the king of the Madras, taking her away by force single-handed in a swayamvara or marriage by bridal choice. Krishna had in this way many more wives, consisting of the large number of handsome women whom he released from the prison of Narakasura, the son of the earth deity, after destroying him. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttarader Mahish Dvaho Namashta Pancharatmo Dhyayah Athaikona Shashti Namo Dhyayah. Skanda 10, chapter 59, Slaying of Narakasura, conflict with Narakasura and his army. The Raja Pariksit said, "Tell us about the prowess of Krishna, the wielder of the bow Saranga, which he displayed in killing Narakasura, the son of the earth deity Bhauma, and releasing those women he had held in confinement." Sri Sukha said, Indra once represented to Krishna about the oppressive actions of Narakasura, like the forcible capture of his royal umbrella. of the seizure of his mother Aditi's ear ornaments, and of his occupation of Indra's seat on the Meru mountain. Krishna thereupon started with his wife Satyabhama on the back of the eagle vehicle Garuda to Prajyotisha, the capital of Narakasura. This city was defended by several layers of fortifications, consisting of barriers of mountains, of weapons, of water, of fire, and of wind. And within there were cords of Murasura, the bonds of which none could break. Krishna shattered the external fortifications of mountains by his mace, of weapons by his arrows, of water, fire, and air by his discus, and of cords by his sword. He, the skillful wielder of the mace, shattered the mechanical devices of war, and the courage in the hearts of warriors by the blowing of his conch, and the bastions of the city by his powerful mace. Hearing the frightening sound of Panchajanya, resembling the thunder on the eve of cosmic dissolution, Mura, the demon with 5 heads, was sleeping underwater, got roused up. This Asura was brilliant like the sun and fire of doomsday, was fierce in nature and in radiance, and whom none could look at, came rushing at Krishna, like a 5-footed serpent at Garuda, with his 3-pronged trident upraised in his arm as if about to swallow the 3 worlds with his 5 mouths. Whirling his trident, he threw it at Garuda, and then from his 5 mouths he sent forth terrific howls, filling the earth, the sky, and all the quarters, and enveloping the cosmic shell. Krishna, who was none but Lord Hari, cut the trident coming against Garuda into 3 with a pair of arrows, and hit the Asura in his face with more arrows. Roused to anger, the Asura hurled his mace at Krishna. The Lord cut into 100 shreds the mace that was speeding towards him. The Asura then rushed at him with uplifted hands, only to have his head severed by the Lord's discus with utmost ease as in play. With head cut and life extinguished, the body of the Asura fell in water like a mountain, whose wings had been cut by Indra's thunderbolt. His 7 sons, grief-stricken and angry at their father's death, came forward to avenge the same. Stationing Pita in front, they, Tamra, Antariksha, Shravana, Vibhavasu, Vasu, Nabaswan, and Aruna came forward for battle, well armed at the behest of Naraka. Those fierce warriors released at the unconquerable one various weapons like spear, club, and trident, as also arrows, swords, and maces. But the Lord, whose power is inexhaustible, cut into bits all those missiles of theirs with his weapons. Pita and others were soon dispatched to Yama's abode with their heads, thighs, arms, etc., severed. When Naraka, the son of the earth deity, saw that all these leaders were slain by Achyuta's discus and arrows, he threw into an uncontrollable rage and came out with his force of elephants, all descended from the sea-born Airavata, and fierce in their ruts. Seeing Krishna seated on Garuda, with his wife, like a cloud fringed by lightning and riding about the sun, the Asura released the weapon, Satagni, a formidable spear, at him, while the rest of his forces also simultaneously attacked. Sundi, the Lord, and elder brother of Gara, cut off the heads and limbs of all the horses, of all the soldiers and horses, and elephants constituting that army, with his arrows winged with plumes of various colors. Whatever weapons the enemy soldiers hurled at him, he cut them to pieces with 3 arrows of his. Garuda, the eagle vehicle on which the Lord rode, decimated the elephants, striking them with his wings, beak, and claws. The elephants ran into the city, being struck and terrorized by Garuda. Those seeing his army thus on the run, Naraka stood firm in the field and gave battle. Naraka now struck Garuda with his powerful lance, with which he had countered even Indra's thunderbolt. Struck by it, Garuda, however, remained unmoved like an elephant struck with a floral wreath. Naraka took a trident to kill Achyuta, but his attempt was foiled by Krishna, who forestalled him by cutting off his head with his sharp discus. Nirka's head, fallen on the earth, appeared bright with his crown and the earrings on it. While Nirka's relations cried, Alas, and the rishis and the celestials rejoiced with loud exclamations and rained flowers on Mukunda, prayer of the earth deity, the mother of Nirka. Then the earth deity, the mother of Nirka, approached Krishna with rich presents consisting of a pair of earrings of bright gold studded with gems, a floral wreath with 5 kinds of flowers, a royal umbrella owned by Varuna, and a rare gem shaped like the top of the Mandara mountain. Then, with palms joined in salutation and with great humility born of devotion, the earth deity began to praise Krishna, the Lord of the universe, and the object of worship of even the highest of divinities. The earth deity said, Salutations to thee, the God of gods, sporting the conch, the discus, and the mace. Obeisance to thee, the supreme consciousness, who assumest bodies to fulfill the yearnings of thy devotees.
Salutations to the lotus naveled, salutations to the lotus garland, salutations to the lotus eye, salutations to the lotus footed. I salute Vasudeva, the support of all. I salute Vishnu, the inner pervader of everything. I salute him who is the ultimate source of everything. I salute him who is all intelligence. Salutations to him who manifests both as the cause and the effect. Salutations to him who is ever existence. Salutation to him who is the supreme spirit. Salutations to him who is infinite power. Salutations to him who is the greatest being. Salutations to him who is the Father of the worlds. Salutations to him who is birthless. O Lord of the worlds, O powerful one, it is thou alone that assumest the great power of Rajas for creation, of Tamas for dissolution, and of Sattva for preservation. Unobstructed by any entity, thou the Purusha, spirit transcended both time and pradana, prakriti, the material of evolution. I, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, the 5 elements, the 5 objects like sound, the deities presiding over them, mind, sense, organs, ahankara giving the sense of agentship, mahatattva and buddhi, all these categories of evolution, of which all living and non-living entities are constituted, are, O Lord, and one without a second, merely phenomenal in thee. O redresser of the fear of devotees who have taken shelter in thee, this Bhagadatta is the son of dead Narak Asura, come to thee in great fear to offer his obeisance at thy lotus feet. Be gracious to protect him and to place thy sin-destroying palm on his hand. The captive women of Narak Asura's city. Sri Sukha said, granting refuge to the son of Narak Asura at the humble request of his mother, the earth deity Krishna entered the prosperous city of his. There he saw more than 16,000 young women from Narak Asura, had by force taken away from the families of defeated kings and others. Seeing the noblest of men in their midst, those women all got infatuated with him. They felt that Providence had brought him near them to be chosen as their husbands, and they chose him accordingly in their mind. Each one of them offered her mind individually to Krishna, saying, May he become my husband. May the great Creator grant me this. Krishna had all these women well dressed and sent to Dwaraka in palanquins. Besides, he dispatched a vast booty of treasure plundered from others by Narakasura, as also large numbers of horses and chariots. Kesava took away from there also 64 tusked, white-colored, and very vast fast elephants that belong to the species of Airavata, the heavenly elephant of Indra. Capture of Parijata. Next, Krishna went to the celestial abode of Indra, where he restored to Aditi, the mother of Indra, the earrings of hers that Naraka had taken away. Krishna with his consort Satyabhama was duly honored by Indra and his queen. At the prompting of his wife Satyabhama, Krishna uprooted the Parijata, the heavenly tree, and sent it to Garuda's back, sent it on Garuda's back to Dwarka, overcoming Indra and the Devas who put up a fight. The Parijata was planted in the garden of Satyabhama's house, adding special glory to it. The honeybees of the heaven, which were very fond of the fragrance and flavor of the flowers, and the flower nectar of Parijata, followed the tree to its new place of transplantation. Just a little before this, Indra had, for the attainment of its objectives, prayed to Achyuta, prostrating himself before him and touching his feet with the top of his crowned head. Yet after the achievement of his purposes, he goes to fight with that Krishna. Fie on the stupidity of the Devas, fie on wealth, which begets such stupidity. Krishna's marriage with the 16,000 women. Next, Krishna had his marriage with all these women performed according to rites on the same auspicious day. Housed as these 16,000 women were in separate houses, he was present at the same time in every one of those houses in different forms to perform the marriage rites, remaining without break in the homes of unequaled and unsurpassed splendor of these 16,000 and more wives, who were all aspects of Rama, the divine consort of Vishnu, and engaging himself in peerless sports. Krishna remained performing the duties of an ordinary householder and enjoying the company of those women without ever being drawn away from the evidence in his Brahmanic bliss. Having obtained as their husband him who is the consort of Rama, him to whom even divinities like Brahma have no approach, these women enjoyed his company always, delighting in amorous sports of loving smiles and looks, frolicsome talks, embraces, and bashful poses. Though each of these women had 100 maids as attendants, they did every service to the Lord personally, welcoming him when he came by giving him seat, offering him agriha and water to wash his feet, preparing betel root to chew, massaging his feet, fanning him, bathing him, applying sandal paste and unguents on his body, decorating him with flower garlands, combining and arranging his tresses, arranging for his sleep, and feeding him, thus acting as his servitors in every way.
Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttararthe Parijata Harana Narakavado Namekona Shashti Tamo Dhyaya Atha Aya Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Skanda 10, chapter 60. Krishna testing Rukmani. Krishna in Rukmani's house. Once Rukmani, assisted by her maids, was fanning Krishna, the teacher and the father of the worlds, while he was seated comfortably on the bed. He who was being served was verily the supreme ruler for whom creation, preservation, and withdrawal of the universe constitute a mere play. It is that eternal being that is now born as Krishna among the Yadus for the preservation of the rules of Dharma that he himself had laid down. That inner apartment where he was seated had decorations of pearl chains dangling loose from canopy and was lighted with brilliant lamps studded with jewels. The abundance of malika wreaths and other floral decorations was inviting many a buzzing honeysucker through the windows, which allowed the pure rays of the moon too to peep in. Though these windows was also coming in the breeze, carrying the sweet smell of the parijata flowers from the garden, while fragrant fumes of frankincense came out through them. In such an inner apartment, Rukmani Devi was serving the Lord of the universe, her husband, seated comfortably on a cot with a bed and pillows white and soft like the foam of milk. Now Rukmani took the jewel-studded chowri fan from her maid and herself began to serve the Lord of the worlds. She shone in all her beauty as she stood by the Lord fanning him. Her bejeweled anklets produced a sweet tingling sound as she moved about. She had on her fingers rings set with gems, and with her hands bedecked with bracelets, she held the fan with which she served the Lord. On her neck were the white pearl necklaces made crimson by the saffron powder of her breasts, covered by the hem of a cloth, while around her waist she wore a priceless girdle. All these together presented her as a rare beauty by the side of her husband. Krishna's, Krishna's taunting words to Rukmani. At the sight of Rukmani standing by his side, Rukmani, who was Sri Devi incarnate and had her sole support in him, and whose form with her curls, earrings, medallion, and nectarine smile matched well with his, Sri Krishna, Hari incarnate, was much pleased and said with a mischievous smile, the Lord said, Princess, many a ruler who was equal in wealth to divinities guarding the quarters, who was high-minded is also charming in appearance, who was endowed with beauty, generosity, strength, and energy, came to your marriage as suitor, urged by his passion for you, and prompted by the offer of your father and brother made of you to him. Shishupala, along with other kings, came to your place seeking you. Without caring for them, why did you choose to wed me, who am inferior to them in wealth and position? One who, out of fear of enemy kings, took shelter in the sea, who has created many enemies for himself among powerful persons, and who has abandoned all claim to the royal throne. Why, O handsome lady, did you choose to wed such a one? Trouble and tribulations, O good lady, are the fate of these women who cast their lot with persons whose ways of life are steeped in mystery and transcend the ways of the world. I am one without any possessions, and I am fond of people who have no possessions. Therefore, O handsome one, wealthy persons do not generally seek my favor. Marriage and friendship should be only between persons who have compatibility in respect of birth, wealth, physical condition, and aspirations about the future. It should not be between people having wide varieties in these respects. Therefore, O Princess of Vidarbha, it was without a knowledge of all these facts and without far-sightedness that you decided to marry one like me, who am really without any high qualifications. The praises bestowed on me constitute merely the vain words of some ascetics of no consequence. Therefore, It is better you seek some noble Kshatriya prince who will be a real match for you and will be able to fulfill all your aspirations in this world and the next. O you handsome one, the rulers Chedi and Salva, besides Jarasandha, Dantavaktra, and other kings including your brother Rukmi, are amicable to me. I whose function it is to put down the power and prestige of evil men, took you by force, O high-minded lady, only to destroy the pride and self-laudation of these senseless kings reveling in their might.
We, who are established in the philosopher's indifference, have no desire for women, offspring, and wealth. We are ever satisfied with the joy of the Atman, and we remain only as mere uninvolved witnesses, light or the rays of the sun in a house, as far as the world and its affairs are concerned. Shri Krishna spoke to her like this in order to humble Rukmini's pride, arising from the feeling he was passionately fond of her because of his remaining in her company always. Having said this much, he remained quiet. Rukmini faints and Krishna comforts her. Alas, hearing these words of her dear husband, the master of the universe, in a strain that was shocking to her in an unprecedented manner, Rukmini was filled with fear, accompanied by trepidation of the heart and weeping. She plunged into endless worrying thoughts, drawing lines on the ground with her handsome toes, with crimson nails, and drenching her saffron-dusted breasts with collyrium-darkened tears. She stood with her head bent and voice choked in the poignancy of her grief, her mind having lost its balance through extreme grief and fear, her fan and bracelets having dropped from her hands, and herself due to paralysis of thought. She fell down suddenly like a plantain tree before a strong wind, with all her hair dishevelled. On seeing her fall like that, the worshipful Lord was filled with pity and sympathy at the condition of Rukmini, whose bond of love for him was so strong and whose innocence could not stand the thrust of his sarcasm. Immediately Krishna, the four-armed Mahavishnu incarnate, got up from his cot, lifted her up, tied up her dishevelled hair, massaged her face with his lotus palms, and did everything to bring her back to consciousness. The Lord of all, an expert in conciliation and the final goal of all pious men, tenderly pacified her, a faithful wife reduced to a pitiable condition by the force of his sarcasm, which she was too tender and innocent to stand. The Lord said, O daughter of the king of Vidarbha, don't be cross with me. I know you look upon me as your sole support. O handsome one, I was only joking in order to have the pleasure of hearing your reply. I wanted to see your face in a state of love pique, to see your quivering lips, frowning brows, and flashing corner glances from your radiant eyes. O faint-hearted, handsome girl, can't you see that for those who maintain a household and follow its ways, these few moments spent in such love crossings hold forth the highest joy? Rukmini's reply to Krishna's sarcasm. Sri Shuka said, O king, Rukmini, the princess of Vidarbha, was thus specified by the Lord's statement that what he said was only a joke and that it was not an indication of his intention to desert her. She cast a soft and engaging glance at that mighty personage from the corner of her eyes and with a bashful smile said, O lotus-eyed Lord, what thou didst say of my not being well matched with thee is indeed true. For where art thou, the all-pervading being, the master of all powers and excellences, the Lord of even the Trimurti, unever absorbed in thy inherent bliss? And where am I, material nature, Prakriti, constituted of the three gunas? Thou hast taken shelter in the deep sea, for hast not thou, pure consciousness and the self of all, taken thy residence in the innermost recesses of the heart, where the gunas of Prakriti touch thee not? It is also true that thou hast many powerful enemies, for thou as the Jiva art ever in conflict with the wicked senses. About thy abandoning kingship, even thy earnest devotees abjure it as the darkest hell. What wonder is there in thy abjuring it? Thou didst say that thy ways are mysterious, and it is unsafe to cast one's lot with thee. True, even the ways of the sages who constantly meditate on thee are mysterious, and men who are like animals in their outlook cannot even conceive of them. Therefore, O all-pervading one, when the ways of even one who follows thee are unpredictable, there is nothing surprising being so in regard to thee, the Lord of all. It was said by thee that thou art a Nishkinchana, a propertyless pauper, and that it is only those without any property that will go after thee. This is no doubt true in a sense, for when there is nothing outside of thee for thee to possess, thou art indeed a pauper. But still, in contradiction to thy statement, even Brahma, who are the masters of the whole universe and who are sought by boon-seeking worshippers, adore thee, the propertyless. The explanation of the riddle is this: only those sense-bound worldlings, proud of their wealth and unaware of the presence of the Lord of Death nearby, that fail to seek thee. The truly propertyless, Nishkinchanas, are those like Brahma, who know that all that they possess is thine. Such devotees are fond of thee, the propertyless, and thou art fond of them, the propertyless. Thy blissful self is the embodiment of all felicities and values. Desiring the bliss that thou art, men of chastened mind abandon everything of the world and its prizes. They are the persons most suited for thee to make relationship with. This is true marriage, not the relationship established between lust-prompted men and women, heirs to a life of mixed sorrows and joys. Belonging as I do to the first category, I come to serve thy blissful self, not for any worldly satisfaction, and so it is not correct to say that our marriage is between incompatibles, as thou didst suggest. Regarding thy reference to the groundless praise by ascetics, it was by hearing the descriptions of thy greatness, by all renouncing ascetics with universal love, that thou art the self of all, and that thou givest thy very self to a devotee, that I married thee, rejecting Brahma and Indra, not to speak of lesser ones, whose powers and positions are reduced to oblivion by time at the slightest movement of thy brows. O brother of Gada, O Lord of all, having driven away by the mere twang of thy bow assembled kings, thou didst take me away, thy rightful property, by force as a lion does its prey, driving away jackals and other animals. It is therefore absurd on thy part to say that out of fear of those very kings thou hast taken shelter in the sea. Yet another absurd statement of thine is that we, women who follow thee, will come to grief. O lotus-eyed Lord, have all those kings come to grief? Those kings like Prithu, the son of Vena, Bharata, Yayati, Anga, Gaya, and a host of other Rajarshis who abandoned their unchallenged empires and entered the forest to follow thy path? Thou didst ask me to go with some better qualified person than thyself, having special excellences. In reply, I ask, which woman of discriminative power would go for another man who is always subject to fear of death, in preference to thee, who art the home of all excellences? Who is the woman that will care to do so after having experienced the fragrance of thy feet? Which holy man praise, which erase the miseries of people, and which form the abode of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune? I have sought shelter in thee, the Lord of the world, the soul of all, and the fulfiller of the aspirations of everyone here and hereafter, seeing that thou art the only one who is a match for me. Revolving as I am in this cycle of births and deaths, may thy feet be my shelter, the feet that destroy the false identification of the body with the spirit, and which remain ever with the votary as his support. Again, thou didst advise me to seek some other kings like Shishupala. My reply to this is, O Achyuta, may those kings whose qualifications consist in that they are satisfied to live in the houses of women as their asses, oxen, dogs, cats, and servants, become the husbands of such women as have never listened to the glorious accounts of thy excellences, which are sung about even in the assemblies of Shiva and Brahma. Only those women who are steeped in the ignorance and who have never experienced the fragrance of thy lotus feet, the husbands who are nothing but walking corpses in disguise, con- constituted as they are of a mass of flesh, bones, blood, worms, dirt, phlegm, and humours, covered over by a coat of skin, hairs, and nails. Thou didst say that thou art indifferent towards all, and that thou hast no special interest in women. To this I reply, O lotus-eyed Lord, though thou art ever immersed in thy inherent bliss and hast no special interest in me, still may I have attachment to thy feet, in spite of this indifference of thine, when at the beginning of the creative cycle thou art in a mood to augment creation, thou art bound to look at me, thy Prakriti, with a Rajasic view. Being of service to thee in that way is of a great blessing indeed to me. O lotus-eyed one, yet I do not totally discount the relevancy of thy words, asking me to seek someone else, though thou hast warned me at the Swayamvara, for there have been cases like that of Amba, a virgin who loved someone different from the chosen one. A harlot, even if married to one person, will seek association with newer and newer men. Such unfaithful women should not be taken as wife by anyone. He who does so loses both this world and the next. Krishna's appreciation of Rukmini. The Lord said, O noble lady, O princess, it is to hear these words of yours that I teased you with my sarcastic speech. Your comments on my remarks are all on the right lines. O high-minded one, you are praying to me for the destruction of all other desires, so that your only desire is myself. That kind of firm devotion to me, however, has always been with you, a wholehearted devotee of mine. Your wifely devotion and steadfastness has now been well proved. Though I tried to shake it by my innuendos, you could not in the least be shaken. Those who, along with performances of austerities and observances of vows, pray for married happiness to me, the granter of liberation, are persons deluded by my Maya. O handsome one, having attained to me, the master of both liberation and worldly wealth, if one still seeks worldly wealth in place of him who is the master of all wealth, it is only to be said that he is an ill-fated man. For these satisfactions which wealth can bring, being on a par with all sensuous enjoyments, can be had even in animal birth. Being dominated by desire for sensual enjoyments, even such hellish life might be welcome to them. And lo, it is quite easy to obtain. O mistress of my home, it is indeed very fortunate that your service of me has always been of the desireless nature, leading to liberation. Evil-minded persons cannot do this, and especially women with low aspirations. Body-minded and unscrupulous can never attain to that state of mind. O dignified lady, hardly any household is likely to have such a loving wife as you. For, seeking your hand in marriage, many crowned heads had come, but you rejected them all, and thought of me, of whom your ideas were merely from hearsay, and sent a Brahmana as messenger to inform me of your devotion to me. In spite of your brother Rukmi being disfigured by us after his defeat in battle, and later even by his slaughter by Balarama, game of dice on the occasion of the marriage of Aniruddha, you put up with the grief caused thereby without a single word of protest out of fear of separation from me. By this behavior of yours, you have conquered me, longing for me, but finding me delaying in coming. You felt this life meaningless, so you sent a Brahmana with a clear message. If I failed, you, you would destroy this body of yours, which you had dedicated to me. This single-minded devotion and dedication shall only rest on you and shall go uncompensated, because it is too noble and great to be compensated by anything that I can do. Sri Shuka said, thus, following the ways of the world, the Lord of the embodiment of all glories, the universal self, ever established in his inherent bliss, entertained Rukmini, who was Rama herself, and regaled himself too with such amorous talks. Thus, Hari, the master and teacher of the world, lived in the houses of his other wives also, following the ways of a householder, as if he were actually a householder. Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Uttararte Samvade Samvado Nama Shashtitamo Dhyaya.
Thank you, everyone. This brings us to the end of the fifth day of the recital. We thank you for your attendance. Do join us again tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, and we close the day with a prayer.
Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu nira, sarve bhadrani shantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
May all be happy. May all be without disease. May all creatures have well-being, and none be in misery of any sort. Peace and peace and peace be